Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Jim Cornette Experience. What's sweeter than spearmint or peppermint? Impeachment. The state of our union, ladies and gentlemen, is fucked. And so is the wrestling business. So today we're going to tell some old stories and laugh at stupid people. Plus the debut of our brand new game show, Wouldn't You Know Who Won the COVID? And to join me in this, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you, the man who voted for impeaching Jack Tunney as president of the WWF, your friend and mine, the great Brian Last.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. You got something wrong there. It was Shinma. I didn't think he was doing enough. I think he was catering too much to Inoki and not enough for the WWF, so I voted to impeach Shinma.
I thought
after the passing of the immortal Willie Gilzenberg.
Well, they never had a president to hold a candle to Willie. I thought you might have voted for the impeachment of Tunney over because he wasn't sure whether or not he had sexual relations with that girl.
It wasn't a girl. It was Billy Red Lyons.
That's who it was. Your Honor, I did not have sex with Billy Redline. Okay, now we're diving way too deep into the Toronto office and just slandering people, and nobody knows who we're talking about anyway. By the way, hello again, everybody.
Let me just clarify. There are no rumors or anything. I just threw a name out there from the Toronto office.
How about referee Bunny Dunlap? I always wondered about Bunny Dunlap. Wasn't he the one he wore the white pants and his ass was as wide as a steamship? Had to turn sideways to walk through a fucking door. You want to come back on YouTube?
Hold on. Let me do a good one. That's
all right. We're back on YouTube.
That was better. Yep.
That was even better. We're back on YouTube, and boy, if you don't listen to the podcast as a podcast, you're missing out. I've got a brief, let's do something to make somebody feel good. An email from Bradley. And this actually was only about a week ago, so this is incredibly new. Jim, I'm a lifelong wrestling fan from Kermit, West Virginia. On January 14th, 2019, I received a heart transplant at the Cleveland Clinic. Let's just say that my recovery didn't go smoothly, but my wife and mother were there with me all of the way. I truly started listening to your podcast in February once I was fully awake and alert. So many evenings were filled listening to your podcast while I recovered. I was listening to the experience lately when it dawned on me that it is almost my 2-year heart anniversary. So do they have a card for that? Does Hallmark have a anniversary card for your heart?
Not that I'm aware.
That's an unplumbed market there. So thank you and Brian for giving me a bit of an escape and turning me into a devoted listener. Even my wife Kelly likes listening to you, even if she doesn't always understand what you're talking about. P.S. I still remember you smacking Bullet Bob Armstrong with your tennis racket in the Charleston Civic Center as a child. Also, my mother hated you because he talks too much. So great job. Well, Bradley, congratulations and happy anniversary on your heart. That's heartwarming.
Very nice.
Is what that is.
Stay well.
And speaking of surgery, let me give the surgery update now. On Stacy's surgery. Have you heard about this? Have you read about this, Brian? We've been talking about this.
Yeah.
And it continues to get more ridiculous. I will try to summarize. We gave an update on the drive-through this past week, but I will try to summarize. She'd been having on and off back pain that started getting more on than off. So she goes to our primary care physician. He says, you'll have to have an MRI and see a specialist. So then the insurance company tweedledums and tweedledees around, and she keeps missing appointments because they won't approve or deny the MRI, and finally they approve it and she has it, and then she goes to see the back specialist that our primary care physician recommended, and he says, you got to have back surgery. You have a cyst pressing on a nerve in your back. That's what's causing that pain that you're having, and you need surgery. We're going to take it out. It's not a difficult surgery. It's not hard. It's not dangerous or anything. We do it all the time. But you'll have a recovery period, 4 to 6 weeks. You won't be able to lift anything over 10 pounds. Get ready for this. We'll call you and schedule it. Okay, shit, right? 2 weeks goes by, nothing. Now, that was 2 weeks before Christmas. Now it's after Christmas. And yes, it's COVID and the holidays. We didn't expect, okay, it's tomorrow, but we got a plan. As we mentioned, I'm trying to plan my time so that I can help out if she can't lift or get up and down the stairs easily. We got the store closed. If it's February, we want to know what's going on, right? Nothing happens. So she calls, leaves a message for the back doctor, and he calls her back. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at your chart right now. Yeah, that looks bad. We're going to have to get that taken out. We're going to call you and schedule it. Okay. Following week, nothing yet. 10 days later or so, she calls the back doctor again. Well, this time she gets everybody's got a prompt now. Press 1 for Dr. Dipshit and 2 for Dr. Buttfuck and whatever. There's no press number for Dr. Back Guy. So what the fuck? So she turns around and calls the receptionist, gets through, and oh, yeah, no, he's not here anymore. What? He left. He's over at another clinic now. Just talked to him 10 days ago. Yeah, no, he's gone. Here's his number. Okay. So now she's like, well, I told you if this guy left, and it didn't sound like, oh my gosh, Dr. So-and-so has moved on to bigger and better things. Boy, we loved him here. He was such a treat to work with. It was like, yeah, no, he's gone. So what the fuck? So she calls our primary care physician back. Say, like, what should I do here? Is there somebody else I should see? He don't call back, leaves the message. He don't call her back. So then just yesterday, she calls the clinic or the practice that back doctor used to work at. And she says, hey, I was a patient of Dr. So-and-so's. Yeah, no, he's not here. I know that. I'm aware of that. He was supposed to do surgery on me. He told me 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, he was going to operate on me. And I've never heard from this guy since. He didn't tell me he was going anywhere. And now, is there another doctor that I can see there that can do this for me? Oh, yeah. Yes, let's see, Dr. So-and-so. He can see you the first week of March. What? You got to be riveted. So now has no doctor to do the surgery that she's supposed to have and can't see another one to start talking about it until March at this place. So I naturally said, tell you what, call our primary care physician, tell him to have our goddamn medical records ready, both you and me, for us to pick them up. And fuck all these people, we're starting from scratch. Because, of course, I always think about things in a calm and reasonable way. And she said, well, let's not drop all our doctors in the middle of a pandemic. And instead, she has called him back to see if he has any other ideas. So that's the fucking update there. In the wonderful country we live in, with the greatest health care in the world and democracy. All a bunch of fucking clowns. So, by the way, Cornette's Collectibles is closed at jimcornette.com. We are going to reopen sometime in February, surgery or not. I'll work everything around it. But I need a break, and we need to at least, not only are we trying to at least find out who's going to be taking a knife to her, but whatever else is going to go on as well, and hopefully plan for some new things later on in the year. But we'll keep you updated on that as we get farther along. How's your health, Brian? Your health doing good?
Yeah, I think so. Everything seems to be all right.
Fuck you then.
Hey!
You know what I need?
I can think of a few things, yeah.
Well, you better not say. I need to just go and lay down on my brand new Helix mattress. That's what I need to do. Because instantly it's like falling into a cloud and I feel better and I'm calmer. And I've been waiting to talk about these people. You people out there, the folks at Helix Mattress, it's HELIX, folks. Helix Sleep. HelixSleep.com is the website. But anyway, I've been waiting to talk about this just because I got so much pleasure out of the unpacking process. The folks at Helix Sleep make great quality mattresses, but they're not these normal mail order mattresses. It's a goddamn mattress like you would buy in any of the finest mattress stores. And it's actually better than the one that we bought in one of the finer mattress stores. But it's delivered to you. You don't have to go out and look at it, blah, blah, blah. You take a quiz online answering questions about how you sleep and what your body type is. It takes about 2 minutes. You go on the site, you answer these questions, and then they basically have different mattress models to choose from: soft, medium, firm, cool down mattresses if you sleep hot, even a plus size person mattress. But you take the quiz and they match you up with your best fit, and then they send it to you. And Brian, well, you know, folks, this thing, it comes in a box. I don't know how they do this, because I was expecting a truck to pull up and deliver this big thing. And like every other time I've ever bought a mattress, you got to have 2 guys lug it up the steps, and you're going to nick some shit on the way, and you got to move stuff out of the way to get it in. It's cumbersome to get it in the bedroom. I go outside, and there's a box sitting there. It's about 3 feet long and about 1.5 feet square. And it's a Helix sleep mattress. I'm like, well, how they've fucked up. They've sent me pillows or whatever. You take it out of the box. It's vacuum sealed and shrink wrapped. And then once that I got the shrink wrap off of it, I said, well, they've still fucked up. This is only a twin bed mattress. It's not big enough, right? And then they give you instructions on how to cut along the seam here. And boom, and when you cut, I was afraid. I thought it was going to be like the I Love Lucy fucking life raft thing where it would explode. I said, stand back, everybody. But this is so cool to watch. You got to video it. When you unpack the mattress, video it. Once that the air gets into the vacuum sealed thing, the mattress just kind of goes, and it starts fully forming. And then I realized, my God, it's beautiful. It's a fucking queen size mattress that, just or queen or king or whatever the fuck they are, in this little box. But it's firm, and there's no wrinkles, and it inflates, and it's perfect. I didn't even care if I liked laying on it. I was going to keep it just for the fucking show. But anyway.
But it is a great mattress. That's the catch. It's amazing. Yeah.
Once we slept on it, Harley's easy to please. Harley Quinn is easy to please. But Stacy's a little grumpy, and I like some support. But we took the quiz together. We picked it out. It's incredible. And like I said, you don't have to go to the mattress store. You don't have to have a truck and 2, knuckleheads carting the thing up your stairs. You order it. It comes in a box. You take it out yourself. You watch the show envelop as it comes back to life, and you'll get the best sleep of your life. And they've got a 10-year warranty, and you get to try the mattress out for 100 nights risk-free, and they'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but you will love it. So, folks, we didn't mention it, but it's helixsleep.com, HELIX sleep.com/JCE. Take the 2-minute sleep quiz. They'll match you with the mattress. It's got the warranty. It's got the risk-free 100 nights. And they're offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows. God damn it, I didn't even get the pillows. I just saw that. I got to get these pillows. 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/JCE. You got to do this. You got to be sleeping in the clouds with helixsleep.com.
I was expecting it because I did the survey like you. And when the box arrived and it was, kind of a rectangle, I'm thinking this can't be the mattress. What is this? And everyone was here because of the pandemic, so everyone's home. So my family was with me when I opened it. We were gathered around like it was the moon landing to watch this thing fill up with air. It was the most remarkable thing. And then the fight over who gets this mattress, because it is really comfortable and really so impressive. What an impressive deal they got going on over there. It's a cool presentation, and it's a great bed, too.
They ought to have video on their website of how they get that mattress in that goddamn wrapping. I would watch that over and over. Anyway, I found a newspaper clipping, and I'm gonna read this to you, Brian, and I want you to stop when you hear something that just don't add up. Okay, but it might be entertaining until then. We've done these in the news segments on your show, but you haven't about legal entanglements, but you have not come up with this clipping yet. And I don't remember who sent this to me. I've had it for a while, but I was trying to straighten up the office. And this is from August 8th, 1987. And it's in some paper in West Virginia. I don't know. Wait a minute. Hold on. It's the Valley edition of the Charleston, West Virginia newspaper, which the name is cut off. Anyway.
Oh, the Valley edition.
The Valley edition.
Wow.
See, they got multiple editions over there. Headline, wrestler ordered to pay $455,000. An Ohio County Circuit Court jury has ordered a professional wrestler to pay $455,000 in damages to a man for headbutting him during a 1983 match at the Wheeling Civic Center. Wrestler Ronald Garvin. Wrestler Ronald Garvin was ordered to pay the damages to Argyle Johnson of Moundsville, who was 19 at the time of the incident in August 1983. Lawyers said Garvin purposely smashed his forehead into Johnson's face in reaction to Garvin's anger about trailing in a tag team match with teammate Bruno Sammartino Jr. against the Midnight Express.
Ah, ding, 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 ding.
Yes.
Midnight Express were not in Georgia in 1983. Of course, it's not a Georgia city, but it was a Georgia town.
You are correct. And for the benefit of those who don't speak fucking that fucked up English, you just conveyed that information in. They were working for Georgia Championship Wrestling, who was promoting those towns in West Virginia, including Wheeling at the time. But no, the Midnight Express, it was 2 years before we went to work. For the Midnight Express, with not even Condrey Rose and Austin. They weren't there. There was no Midnight Express in any of the West Virginia towns for Georgia in 1983. But anyway, continuing on. Johnson, who was in a front row seat, suffered no broken bones, but was in considerable pain as a result of Garvin's actions, said lawyer Rod Berry. Berry was skeptical about his client receiving the monetary damages, since Garvin failed to attend the trial, respond to any notices mailed to him regarding the case, and the wrestler's address is unknown. They just didn't book Ronnie and Wheeling again. Back in those days, that was enough. So I don't know who the tag team opponents were, and Garvin was a babyface at that time, but obviously there was more to the story. And we don't know.
No, there's more to the story than my team with Bruno Jr. is trailing. I'm going to go headbutt this fan.
Yeah, I'm going to go headbutt this guy in the front row because I'm pissed off he's laughing at me and I'm a babyface.
But there's never a story of the wrestling fan got beat up and they deserved it. It's always, I was minding my business, enjoying the spectacle of professional wrestling, when the wrestler just attacked me for no reason.
Well, and I can testify to that as the Altoona incident that made the Associated Press that time. We've told that story, but
1990.
Yes, that was. He said I was in the newspaper. This was the description. He was standing at the railing taking photographs when I began pummeling him with the racket. But I got another one for you. I don't know if I've told this on the podcast. It's in the Midnight Express book. The time that I was arrested in Greensboro for whacking the kid with my tennis racket in the parking lot. Did I tell you that one?
I think I may have heard that a while back, yeah.
But, well, for the benefit of our younger viewers, but just to show you how shit can get twisted, whether it's in the ring or inside the building or outside the building. We're leaving the Coliseum in Greensboro one night, me and the Midnight Express, and the cops walked us to our car in the parking lot there. It was the same cops that worked security at all the shows. They knew us, and they knew that we would have issues, so they were walking us out. Well, this teenage kid, about 15 or 16 years old, I'm carrying in my right hand, I'm carrying my carry-on bag, or my, bag with my knee braces and shit. We weren't flying, we were in the car, but my bag with my knee braces and shit, I got my suit bag over my left shoulder, and I've got my car keys in my left hand because I'm driving. So as we're walking down and the cops are walking us, but this teenage kid just comes up and tries to kick at me and kind of gets the suit bag that was hanging down there because I turn around and I say, hey, and I shoved him with my left hand with the car keys in it. I said, get out of here, you little shit. And the cops told him to fuck off, and off he goes, right? And we get in the car and we leave. Well, the next time we're in Greensboro, the cops come up to me and said, we have a warrant for your arrest. I said, what? And they said, well, from this kid that you supposedly hit here at the last show. And I said, I didn't hit anybody here at the last show. And they said, we know that. I said, why are you arresting me? They said, well, we kind of got to. But here's the thing. We're just going to drive you over there where you sign a thing and do a thing, and we're bringing you right back. Oh, goddamn. All right. I've done this a few times. I'll tell you another one in a minute, where they just drive you over and you do something and you come back. But the story that this kid went home and told his father was that when I was leaving the arena, he had been heckling me or whatever, and I had whacked him over the back with my tennis racket. Had caused him, he was in tremendous pain. He had a big old bruise, and his father was madder than hell, was going to sue everybody in sight, and had filed a warrant for assault on me. What the fuck? And so anyway, when they go over there and I sign a thing and boom, and they bring me back and they said, don't worry, we will testify that we covered you inside the ring and outside the building. This incident never happened. Don't worry about it. Okay, fine. This is one of the least of my worries with legal entanglements. But I got to get a lawyer in Greensboro. And since Crockett's not involved in this, because it's not a lawsuit, he's not going to pay for the lawyer. Some promoters, Crockett was one of them, if you got sued and they were named in it, they'd cover your lawyer too. Sometimes you just left the territory. But in this case, this would just, so I have to get the lawyer in Greensboro. They go to the preliminary hearing where everybody presents the things to determine whether there should be a trial, and the cops actually go and say, no, this is fictitious, it never happened. I didn't even have to go to the thing. The lawyer is there. He said, don't worry about it, it's formality. Lawyer calls me back and says, well, they decided to take it to trial. I said, what? He said, you don't have to come, but I got to go to the trial and the cops got to go back to this. So I had to pay him again. It cost me $2,500 to tell this little shit to fuck off. And they actually had a trial and presented the evidence, of which there was none. And the cops said, no, it didn't happen. And they found me not guilty. I wasn't even there. I wasn't even there. And Owen wasn't either. But that's the kind of thing. And we've seen so many of the newspaper articles where they describe that, you know, like you said, the guy was just minding his own business when suddenly, oh, my God, I was attacked. The time in Baton Rouge when that's when Dundee had to quit fucking going to Baton Rouge because he was booking. He wasn't working then, so they didn't know who he was, but he couldn't go for about 3 months because he pickled this guy too. But see,
I always loved that story because when you first told it, when I first heard you tell it, it was, and the cops are looking for a 5'6" Australian man for months.
Yeah. Because they were like, nobody knew who Dundee was there. He was the booker. He didn't start wrestling in a territory at that point, so they didn't fucking know. But basically, we're coming back from the ring, and the guy jumped up on the railing and leaned over and swung at me. And I ducked it. It was on my right side. I ducked it and drew back the racket to fucking whack him. And when I drew back, I hit the cop in the head and then fucking hit the guy. And then I think Bobby or Dennis, whoever was behind me, hit him. But he was on the other side of the railing. Dundee'd been standing in the back watching the matches like he always did. So he ran up the people side of the barricade and got on this guy. And the poor guy, he hit him with about 5 or 6 of his working punches. I'm surprised he got to get brain damage. He just got on him and pap, 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 like that. And then the cops got mad because I'd hit one of them on the fucking backswing, and they were mad at everybody. And in the newspaper account of the thing, when the guy got taken to jail and then he filed charges on assault, it was one of my favorite headlines. Wrestling Spectator claims he was, quote, fed to the lions, unquote. He described it as like the gladiator being thrown into the fucking lion pit where he was pummeled by everyone. And the reason why he had to attack me is because of what I had called him on the microphone in the introduction of the Midnight Express. And they said, what's that? He said, well, he got on the microphone and he called us all sorry. Because that's why you got to be the sorriest bunch of people I ever seen in my life, right? He called me sorry. Anyway. So that was that one. And in Huntington, West Virginia, Brian, have you ever spoken to anybody else that got 4 warrants for their arrest for assault and battery in under 90 seconds?
I don't believe so.
You are talking to them right now? I don't have newspaper clippings on this one, but In 1986, the first time that Crockett ran the Huntington Civic Center in Huntington, West Virginia. Seems like it always happens in West Virginia. We're in the law books in West Virginia that they teach in law school for what happened in Beckley. And this is my all-time personal record. I've never had more than 4 arrest warrants in the same day, separate warrants. I've had a warrant for more than 4 charges the same day, but we're splitting hairs here now. Nevertheless, Crockett was running the Charleston Civic Center, but had not run the Huntington Civic Center 50 miles down the road. They used to go to the old Huntington Field House. But finally, they were doing bigger business, and they got TV in Huntington, whatever they're going to run, and it was the first card in the Huntington Civic Center, which seats about 6,000 to 7,000 people. It's a big building, and they didn't know how they were going to do. Charleston had been doing well. It would do good that year, but so they were going to do one of these deals where they used half the building. They set the ring up at the far end of the floor so that they could kind of block off half the building and keep the people over in the bowl end and everybody get a good seat, right? You can visualize this. Except the problem is they already set that up and made that arrangement, and I don't know whether it's a standard advance, nothing special or whatever, but then all of a sudden the walk-up came, and I remember it was, goddamn, was it Sandy Scott or Elliot Murnick? But they kept coming back going, we're holding the show up. There's more people coming in. West Virginia is a walk-up town anyway. But point is, this surprised everybody, and they ended up selling this son of a bitch out. I sound like Ricky Morton now. However, they'd already set the shit up before all this started happening. They set the shit up that afternoon, so the ring is at the far end of the building. And they started adding more floor seats because they had more chairs as people were willing to buy more ringside. So I look out there, and we've got to walk nearly the length of the floor of the Charleston Civic Center to get to the Huntington Civic Center to get to the ring, and down through what looks to be 30 or so rows of floor seats on this side with a 6-foot aisleway in between. And I'm at a 6-foot aisleway, standard like for a concert or something. Not for hated people being escorted by the police down that aisleway. There's no barricade in between the seats. It's a regular aisleway. And the cops are going to get in front of us and behind us and walk us down this fucking aisle. And I'm already seeing trouble. And then we're working with the Rock and Roll Express. So I'm already seeing trouble coming back. And then we did some kind of DQ, but it was a DQ where I'd whacked somebody or done something dastardly. I don't have my book in front of me right now. I'll tell you what the finish was exactly. But the point is, we got some heat and bail out on the floor, and the cops literally don't have room to get on the sides of us. They've got to get in front and back because there's less than 6 feet. And as we start going down this aisleway, the people are hot, and we're right there. And they start fucking coming. And we start swinging, and the cops try to start pushing them back. And here comes everybody, and I said, fuck it. Because at that point, they were in between me and Bobby and Dennis and all around everybody, and we just said, we're going to have to go. You're not supposed to run in situations like this, but you're never supposed to let them get you off your feet. And there was a danger this was going to happen in the next 5 to 10 seconds. So I just took both hands on the racket, spun it over the top of my head or around me like a fucking helicopter blade, leaned forward and ran straight as I could down that aisle with people kicking your shins. But if you stay up, you might not be in full control, but you're not going down. And I'm swinging that thing over my head, and I'm beating women, men, old people. I don't know how many people I hit. It sounded like a helicopter had flown into a flock of seagulls. But fuck it. Well, if it's them or me, it don't look like they're going to make it. And I didn't particularly want to get fucking stabbed that day. So I created my space, and I got back to the fucking back. And here Bobby came, Dennis came, the cops came, their hats are all knocked off and everything. Shit's jerked around their necks. And and so the next time I went to Huntington, the cops came back and said, we have 4 warrants for your arrest for assault and battery over that last, show incident here, whatever. Fuck. They said, just come on over. I swear to God. And this was an afternoon show. And I got to go somewhere that night, as I recall. And I'm thinking, this whole day's going to be fucked. And they said, no, get in the car. We're going to take you over. It's 2 blocks because we're in Huntington. Everything's 2 blocks. We're 2 blocks over to the police station. You're going to sign a thing. You're going to pay us $100. We'll have you back here by the time the show starts. And son of a bitch, they did. And I never heard another goddamn thing about it. Nobody filed a lawsuit that I'm aware of. The statute, as they say, of limitations, I guess, is run out by this point. Anyway, I never got hassled again. Never got another letter over it. Just come over here and pay us $100. Okay, at $25 a piece. That was the best deal I ever had. Because Crockett paid our lawyer in Beckley until he sold to TBS, and then the case was still open. It cost us about another $5 or $6 grand a piece, as I remember, to get that one closed up. And he paid for the lawyer I had in fucking Gainesville, Georgia, was John Taylor, who ended up being Flair's lawyer forever and ever. A very Remington Steele-looking motherfucker, very smooth guy. Chory and Taylor at the time. I think he went on to greater things, but. That was the security when you go back and look at it now, and this is what galls me, and I'll bring this to an end with this story. You go to a wrestling show now, there are barricades and bicycle racks and custom built security barriers, and you can't get within 20 feet of a babyface to hug him. You couldn't get an autograph unless they did it with a laser pen. You can't get, it's like the goddamn inauguration security at a wrestling show, and nobody has one lick of fucking real heat. None of these fans legitimately want to beat anybody's ass. And it's the best security I've ever seen. We had people actually phoning in active death threats for us, and we had clotheslines tied around the ring to differentiate where the people were supposed to go versus the wrestlers. You remember those days.
Yeah, when I was a kid and I first started seeing that, I was in the Northeast, so I'd seen WWF first, and they at least had a barricade. And the first time I see that, I'm thinking, is that rope? Did they just have a rope around the ring? And it was.
Yes. The Smoky Mountain metal railings that we had around our ring came from Greenville, South Carolina, the Memorial Auditorium. Those were used for the Crockett shows, and they were only about 3 feet high, and you could hop right over them, but it was something. And the Memorial Auditorium just gave them to us. We stored our ring there at the start. But in a lot of towns, you just have one of those stands with, it looked like the Weeble Wobble thing with sand in its fucking bottom to keep upright, and they'd tie a clothesline, and it'd go around all four sides of the ring, and the wrestlers would come and just step over the deal to get in the ring, and that was supposed to keep these fucking drunk fans back. So one night in Gainesville, Georgia, is a midnight thing, and I think it was the Sawyers or Sawyer brothers, Buzz and Brett, whoever the fuck it was. I did something, choked somebody, and all of a sudden I felt hands on my shoulders, and I spun around, and there was a guy from the front row that had grabbed me, and you should have seen the look, and I was like, to quote a Dream Machine fucking interview, he blew his whiskey-smelling breath and shook his nicotine-stained fingers in my face. And I looked to the left and right in the twinkling of an eye, and I didn't see a cop in a suitable fucking distance, and I just blasted this guy right in the fucking face. Because, as I mentioned before, if it comes to me or him, he ain't gonna make it. And boom, he went back into his fucking seat. And then the cops got there by that point, and they snatched him. Well, of course, he sued, but the thing was, guess what the bone of contention was there? This is one for Stephen P. New. Too bad he wasn't practicing in Georgia 35 years ago. The whole bone of the other opposing attorney's contention lay, well, he was in the spectator area where he was supposed to be. I said, no. I said, I was leaning on the ring, and he had his hands on me. He was in our area. We were this close together. Was he on the spectator side of the barrier that was erected around the ring to differentiate the wrestling area from the spectators area? Yes, he was, because he had just walked right up into this clothesline, and it just bent with him. He came all the way up to me. And that's what prolonged it some period of time. I think finally the insurance company paid this hillbilly something to go away, but because he had been on, even though he violated the moral intent of the space that was created, he was still technically on the other side of the fucking rope. So I shouldn't have hit him. I thought, well, I hit him in the fucking face. How about that? You never know about these legal entanglements.
No, you don't.
And I tell you what, folks, for the benefit of anybody out there who doesn't know when they may or may not end up in jail, I'd say just be prepared at every given moment and always be Manscaped. Always be Manscaped, because you never know when you will end up in jail and you want to make a good impression there. But if you're not in jail, if you're not making a good impression on all those domestic terrorists that are being locked up, you're in your own home and you're making a good impression on your significant other, or you're roaming around the public in a safe and masked fashion trying to make an impression on some other member of the opposite or even the same sex, depending on what you're looking for. Folks, regardless of what you're looking for, you don't want to stink. You do not want to smell like a man eating Fremunda cheese in the septic tank of a slaughterhouse. You do not want to be able to bluff a buzzard off a gut wagon. And our friends at Manscaped, the all-time leaders in personal grooming products, have now got a new product that is going to make you smell as good as their other products make you look and feel. And I'm talking about refined cologne. That's the name of it. Refined from Manscaped. And it is refined. And we mentioned this on the drive-thru this past week. The notes on the publicity go into a little bit more detail than I would. It says, calming and inviting, the signature scent introduces a light citrus burst before settling into the anchoring notes of vetiver and a woodsy masculine finish. Now, we've debated whether you really want a woodsy masculine finish around your face and neck. Some people would say yes, some might say no. But I say this stuff is the best smelling cologne that I've ever had. I put it on, even if I'm home alone in the house, it puts me in a good mood. It makes me feel more confident that I don't smell like some swamp creature, that I am attractive to other people, including my lovely Harley Quinn. So, folks, whether it's the lawnmower or the crop mop ball wipes or all the other products that we've recommended to you from Manscaped that you've loved, now you can smell like spring flowers, and you can be confident, and you can have a woodsy masculine finish with refined cologne by Manscaped. And you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code JCE at manscaped.com. And that's off the refined cologne or everything they got on the site. 20% off and free shipping with the code JCE at manscaped.com. Look good, smell good, feel good, do good.
Boy, that description to the refined cologne sounds like Jay Peterman wrote it.
Oh, you know what? Maybe Elaine Bennis wrote it.
That's right. That's right.
Well, be an adventurer, folks. I got an email, and the subject was a challenge Brian probably won't ask. Okay. And this was sent to my email as well as to the drive-thru, because apparently he doesn't trust you because he's not Charlie in Starkville. But I thought this is a good time. Since I found it, actually, before I lose it again, I'd bring it up.
And by the way, Charlie now does that too, where he sends questions to me and to you at the same time.
Well, see, because he's trying to play both sides against the middle here. He feels that one day he can hijack that program. But I'll have you know, sir, that you are mistaken, and if you try any further, then we will be done with you, and we will neither nod nor speak.
Many listeners feel that he already has. But
anyway, all right, but this guy, he doesn't give his real name. That's a sign that maybe he's either ducking the law or he doesn't want me to know who it is. Anyway, he has a challenge for me, and that he says there are so many flaws these former promoters or bookers have, and you've nailed most of them to a figurative cross many times, but the challenge here is, can you name positive contributions these personalities brought to the wrestling industry? So I thought we'd go down this list and see what we can say positive about the people he's got on it. You feel free to chime in if you want.
Okay.
Triple H. How can you've got to be able to say positive things about Triple H, as we have. He besides being the most accomplished politician and spousal picker in the history of the wrestling business, He's always in great shape. He's done a good job overall with NXT. I don't know what's happened lately, but it's still been better than the main roster. He's a student of the business. He has a more reasonable head to him about what it is than Vince has just gone crazy with the entertainment. He's always in great shape. He has good matches. He wasn't Steve Austin. He wasn't The Rock, as I've said before. He's the guy that worked with the guy that drew the money. But in many cases, he held his end up. You can't just, there are positive things about Triple H. You can't just say, no, he's the shits. That's ridiculous. Even if you don't like the the manipulations that he made behind the scenes in order to get and stay potentially where he's been at. We answered that question one time. He still would have been at a high level with the company for a long period of time. He just probably wouldn't have been a lifelong fucking member and the guy to run it, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Did I miss anything?
I mean, that's the big positive. I think the biggest positive is just he's a master manipulator. If you remember when they brought him in originally, it's the same time they brought Chris and Tammy in, because Chris used to say that it was at WrestleMania and they were walking around because they were the new guys, and he said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to run this place.
Yeah.
And of course, what that meant was he was going to marry Shawn and fuck Stephanie, and that's exactly what happened. And then, I also give him credit because he had a lot of heat from smart fans.
That was especially funny because I don't know for sure if you did it on purpose.
I did it on purpose. And
okay.
I shouldn't have revealed that, however.
You should have said, did what? And see, that would have made it even so much funnier.
But he had a lot of heat for all the years that he was heavily pushed on TV. I mean, we forget now because it's been so long, but it was ridiculous how hard he was pushed and how he was pushed and how he destroyed everyone, including beating tag team champions 2-on-1. I mean, it was ridiculous for a long period of time. And he had all the heat on him from the smart fans, and he completely turned it around with NXT.
Yeah.
He knew how to get them to like him, which was sign all the indie darlings and give them their own promotion and make myself the face of that promotion. So I guess that's the big thing. Smart guy.
Yeah. And also, let's be honest, it wasn't like whenever they would give Eric Embry the book somewhere and he would fucking push himself and do all the heavy shit with himself looking like a fucking, the lost member of the Darling clan. At least Triple H looks the part and fucking, you can, anyway.
Yeah, and the difference is, it would be like if Eric Embry was pushed like that because Vince wanted him pushed like that. That's the difference. Even though he was in Vince's ear, it was what Vince wanted. Vince wanted Triple H to crush and destroy everybody.
Speaking of which, another name on the list, Vince McMahon Jr. Obviously, while you can revile him for many things, most recently being in league with fucking President Pig shit, my God, how can you not say positive things about Vince? For all the things that he has accomplished, the money he's made, regardless of how he's done it, he did make stars at one point. He did, have the key to making the biggest wrestling stars in the world. That's when, you could argue about the style, but you couldn't argue about the success. Of course, nobody, that doesn't ever last forever with anybody, and Vince, the thing is, he would treat you wonderful. As long as he needed you around, he would do wonderful things for you. And I can see where people have always been like, well, goddamn, Vince is the greatest guy, even though then he'd fuck you later when he didn't need you anymore. But you'd remember the good shit. Well, he did some good shit for me, and he also fucked me around a little bit and everything in between. And so I balance it out. There's not just all bad to say about Vince. And he was on air the greatest heel talent probably in the world during that run. So, there's still positive things to say. I mean, help me. Help me figure out some more, but there's good things.
Revolutionized wrestling in terms of merchandising and marketing. Yeah. You got to give him that. Is the reason a lot of wrestlers make more money. Now, we could talk about the fact there are less wrestlers working, less places to work, but because of the merchandising, the wrestlers that work for him were making, especially in the 80s, they were making tremendous money.
Yeah. Well, and the 90s as well, and the early 2000s, and now not so much. because for a variety of things, it's not due to Vince. They've realized they don't have to pay these guys, except for the very few at the top, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, whatever, Randy Orton, very much money, because they're all interchangeable. And that's right now due to Vince's fault also. But anyway, of course, there's positives. In a completely different vein, next on the list, Paul Heyman. How the fuck, if this guy has been listening to me for any length of time, probably of any name on this list, can you not say good things about Paul Heyman? He's a fucking genius in his own way. You can't believe what he says to you if his tongue is notarized, but he's a brilliant promo. He was an incredible booker that got the most out of the least. Look at the guys that he got over at ECW with that audience that couldn't have possibly done it anywhere else. Not all of them, but some of them. He did the bullshit grunge and hardcore stuff that we're still stuck with the fallout of, but that can't change. It'll be like Shawn Michaels being personally a complete prick, but being a tremendous in-ring performer. That Paul is a genius at a lot of facets of this business can't be, completely overlooked by the fact that he fucking caused everybody to want to hit each other with the head with a fucking trash can. The only part, Paul's been a manager, he's been an announcer, he's been a promoter. He was probably even less business-minded as a promoter than I was, because I was always looking to be fair to everybody and make sure that the fucking show's the most important thing, whereas he was looking to make sure that the smoke and mirrors didn't somehow get cleared out and everybody see what was going on. But he's done almost that. The only part of the business he never got was the physical part. But otherwise than that, Paul has been fucking great. I don't think he likes it as much as he used to, because he never went to Fan Fest, never got together with the boys from the old days, didn't do...
Because that's not what he likes. He likes working one-on-one with talent.
Well, there you go. I don't know how he keeps up the enthusiasm with the talent that they give him to work with. It's not like just every one of these knuckleheads. He either gets Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar or whatever the case, but there are other people behind the scenes that come to him for advice, or he gives them advice, and he enjoys being able to work with talent. Is that what he told you? No, but I mean, he's always, think back to how the credits would run on wrestling. Paul has always enjoyed being a producer, and working with talent is his way of being a producer. But anyway, the point is, he's got his faults, veracity being the biggest, but Paul has done a lot of great shit. So, yes, there's plenty of great things to say. Completely opposite name, Ole Anderson. Oh, boy. But no, really, you could say he was grumpy, and we've talked about this. You can say he's grumpy. Well, he's grumpy. He's always been grumpy. But here's the thing. The challenge was to say positive things about these people, even if he's overly grumpy. Ole made a fucking fortune in the wrestling business. Ole was a top guy for almost his entire career, got to be a booker, called his own shots, making huge money in the 70s. He was he made, all respect to Gene and absolutely none to Lars, he made the Anderson brothers legends and household names. Main event stars in the Carolinas and Georgia forever. He didn't need to go anywhere else. He was always either figured into the booking or in the office or a part owner or whatever. He did everything on his own terms. He was incredibly intelligent, a tremendous promo, believable work, and funny as fuck if you're not mad at him. I was mad at him for a few years over the whole WCW thing, but as I talked to him several years ago at the Charlotte reunions, he's fucking hilarious. And I think his booking was the shits the last few times he did it, because I truly don't think he gave a shit to begin with. And, but yeah, so you can say a lot of good things about Ole. In terms of talent, one of the best promos of all time, and maybe what would mean the most to him in terms of a good thing you could say about him, made a lot of money and kept a lot of money. Yes. probably one of the only people in the wrestling business that kept more than he made. If it was possible, Ole could do it. Here's another name on the list. Jack Pfeffer.
Oh, come on. There's so many good things you could say about Pfeffer.
I know, but see, here's the thing. He's the exception of the rule because he exposed the business. So we should banish him. But at the same time, without Jack Pfeffer, he gave Buddy Rogers the gimmick. He revolutionized the business there. He was the classic carny promoter. He could take a fucking Jewish guy from Long Island and make him a Russian menace, or a fat guy from fucking Georgia and make him a goddamn, attraction. He was there at the dawn of the pro wrestling business the way we know it and how it was being formed, and he influenced a lot of it for good or Christine Jarrett hated him and wanted to kill him. Anybody that can be in wrestling for 40 years and stir up those kind of emotions from people you would never think that would have them. He just, yes, it was a blessing and a curse. He became noted for the rip-off gimmicks and outlaw promotions. And, just the whole Jack Pfeffer image became known for being outlaw and against the grain and exposing the business. But he was instrumental in some of the biggest changes in wrestling for the first 50 years. So you have to be able to say good things about the weirdest character in the history of wrestling.
Oh, there's a bunch of things you could say about him. Before I say anything, I'll tell you brought up Christine Jarrett. It made me think of this. I just pulled it out of my files here. I got a program from Boston, May 30th, 61. Once again, Boston, Massachusetts, nowhere near Tennessee. But in Boston, for Tony Santos, world-famous Jack Pfeffer wrestling program, soon coming attractions including the fantastic Fields brothers and the legendary three Welsh brothers, spelled Welsh. And there's a picture here of Lester and Herb and Roy. And Roy certainly was not wrestling or looking like this at this point in time in 1961. But then
Roy wasn't wrestling at all in 1961. He had retired and was promoting then. He wasn't going to go to Boston.
Well, once again, this is a Boston program. You open it up, the next page, a picture of Pfeffer with two telephones, one on each ear.
I've seen that.
Around the World with Master Showman Jack Pfeffer, and is a picture of Nick Goulas and Roy Welch. Jack Pfeffer salutes the nation's #1 wrestling promoters, Nick Goulas and Roy Welch, for their courage, ability, honesty, and sportsmanship, which is the secret of their success to promote the largest circuit in the country, between 50 and 60 shows weekly. Again, this isn't a Boston program. Why is this here? Why is this in the middle of this program?
Because I guarantee you that Pfeffer then will send that in the mail down to Nick, and Nick will fucking go crazy over it because he loves publicity like that. And he was trying to do some kind of deal with Nick, because it was about 6 or 7 years later that's when he came in and threatened to go to the papers and expose the business if they didn't book somebody or other. And Christine Jarrett said, how about we just have you killed and thrown in the river or whatever? And that's the thing. Jackie Fargo never said anything bad about Jack Pfeffer because he was instrumental toward getting Jackie and Donnie booked in Madison Square Garden and was their real manager for a time, took a cut of their money, but that's why Jackie Fargo was the world champion in Chicago at one point, and how he got booked in Madison Square Garden, and some of the other big things that he did. But at the same time, the promoters wanted to fucking kill him.
Okay, here's another program. Hold on, now that we're talking about this. November 11th, 1965, Boston. Wildman Fargo, the only holder of 2 world's titles and 2 diamond belts, real world champion. Fargo chases San Martino and Sam Nartino. Wildman Fargo agrees to defeat Bruno San Martino and Bruno Sam Nartino, both men within 1 hour, or forfeit the match. And there's a picture of him with his belts and his crown and talking about him beating Bearcat Wright for the title. So he's going to beat the real Bruno and the fake Bruno in 1 hour.
Do you think both Brunos showed up?
The other funny thing is, so many people talk about the Jack Pfeffer knockoffs. Bummy Rogers, and there was more than one Bummy Rogers. Hobo Brazil, those are usually the two you hear about.
There was a lot of heat. I mean, Pfeffer was obsessed after Rogers had to break away from him and do his own thing. And what was it? Pfeffer would draw on the back of pictures of people he's mad at. He'd draw a black cat.
No, apparently it was a cat that he took out of like a perfume ad. I don't know if he had tons of the ad or if he made copies, in the 40s or 50s. I don't know how you do that. But he would tape the black cat on the back of a picture of anyone he hated. It was the Pfeffer curse. But the thing is, you see a picture of Bummy Rogers, and it was a Bummy Rogers before he had the falling out with Buddy Rogers. And then later on, there was a Bummy Rogers. There were even Rogers brothers. I mean, he did so many crazy things. But they kind of look like, they're blonde-haired, they're wearing a robe. Bruno Sammartino, the fake Bruno, looks nothing like Bruno Sammartino. He's got like a fro. He's got a giant chest tattoo. Nothing like the Italian strongman Bruno Sammartino. And then you open this up. Hold on. Is this one of the ones that has... Yeah, here are some of the knockoffs in here. Lou Kez, Naldo Von Erich, Jimmy Valentine, Walter Valentine, Whipper O'Connor, Hobo Brazil, Gene Karniski, a phony Gorgeous George, the Boston Bruiser, John Paul Herring. This is maybe my favorite. Vilmer Snyder.
Oh my God. Instead of Wilbur Snyder, we have Vilmer Snyder, ladies and gentlemen.
Laverne Gagner. Johnny Powders. Smasher Watson. It's just every single person here is a complete fake. But in terms of positives, I think maybe the biggest overall positive right now is that Jack Pfeffer kept everything. And historians like a Tim Hornbaker or a Matt Farmer or anyone can go to Notre Dame and go through the collection and learn so much about wrestling history, a history that in many ways is lost, that people like you or me try to piece things together and figure things out. But he is the one guy, he kept everything. So I think that's maybe one of the biggest positives.
Well, there's 3 more names on this list. So far, we've completed the challenge, right? But it gets tougher. I'm going to give you all 3 names at the same time.
I'm guessing who 2 of them are. The third one's going to be interesting. All right.
Dixie Carter, Jim Herd, and Vince Russo.
I thought it was going to be Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff and a third person, so that took me by surprise.
I can say positive shit about Bischoff. Great television performer, smarmy heel, looks like a prickish John Davidson, good promo.
Jim Herd, let's go to that first, because that's the toughest one, I think, out of all 3 of those.
What? I thought this was a fucking 3-way tie for impossible. What good can you say? I mean, I don't know if Jim Herd may have been good at something or had a positive quality in some other part of his life that I was not aware of, but nothing related to my dealings with him or the wrestling industry in general would make me say anything positive. What the fuck could there be? Help me.
A positive for Jim Herd in the wrestling business, not in the Pizza Hut business.
Well, they said anything positive you can say. Well, I don't know about any of his outside life.
Here's a positive. He did so much stupid shit, and there was so much stupid shit that he never did, but he talked about doing, that we can laugh about those stories to this day.
Close enough. Dixie Carter.
She slept with the boys.
Well, but that's not positive for me to say because she didn't sleep with me. Why am I positive somebody else was getting some action? Sound like the Sheik now. Why am I positive? I'm positive. Yes, Sheik always positive. What the positive statement that you could make is that she got her parents to spend the money to keep the business open, but then mismanaged it so it had no chance of success. So does that neutralize that? What other good thing contributions that these personalities brought to the wrestling industry? So even narrowing it down, even if I knew anything good about Jim Herd in his private life, it wouldn't qualify. Positive contributions these personalities brought to the wrestling industry. Dixie Carter, give it to me. She kept it open and then fucked it up.
I think that you gotta, again, we're just doing positives. You can't even worry about fucked it up because it still exists today. kept it open. Because if you're looking at a positive, a lot of guys were able to get paid for a long period of time, and some guys were able to get ridiculous money. I think that's the big positive, is just the idea that she wanted they were her clients. She was doing PR, and she was afraid they were going to go away, and it was her move to get in. She kept that place afloat. And there were months here and there where TNA was all right, and then there was a whole lot of bad, but at least she kept that place open. So for a long time where there was no viable number 2, guys were able to get paid and were able to work. And, who knows where AJ Styles would be today if he didn't have TNA for all those years.
Well, but yeah, I guess so, indirectly. But
I'm looking for a positive. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I know. It's just a shame that the same person that was getting the money from her parents to keep it afloat was the one that was in the way of it going anywhere. All right. Final name. This is all you, baby. What do you got good to say? A positive contribution Shitstain brought to the wrestling industry.
What did he bring to the wrestling industry that was a positive?
Maybe positive contribution made to the wrestling industry, brought to the, however you want to phrase that. Something positive, a positive impact.
Okay.
See what I did there?
Not necessarily what I like, but could you argue that the Crash TV style of WWF television helped them defeat WCW? You think you can make that argument?
Not really.
I mean, you had the stars. That's the thing. You had Crash TV, but then you also had the Austin and the Rock, and you had the big stars.
The Crash TV got in the way of the real talent a lot. But Crash TV, people were watching it, but then the Crash TV is also why people gradually quit watching so much, because hot-shotting, you can't keep it up. Maybe it played a minor part in beating WCW, but the bigger part was obviously WWF had the younger and the better stars presented in a better and more professional way, and there was more organization in the company, whereas corporate in WCW was a shit show of backstabbers and drunken spenders, and none of the boys were working together either, and the stars were all older, the ones they concentrated on. So naturally, younger, new, and better organization is going to win, and also the better stars, The Rock and Steve Austin. Did the Crash TV just if it enhanced anything that Rock and Austin and the top 5 or 6 guys did, then you could say that Crash TV contributed. If it didn't enhance what they did, you could say that it was a detriment because it just got in the way.
Here's a positive. He went to WCW.
Well, there you go. He went to WCW and put him out of business. No, he had a lot of help in that. It's like wondering who the father was when they ought to name the baby Target because everybody had a shot at it. Can't blame Shitstain all by himself. You know what, though? I'll tell you what. If I'd have known that these fine folks were around back then, I'd have more hair than I do now. Because of dealing with all the people on the list, well, I didn't have to deal with Jack Pfeffer. I lost a lot of hair before I knew that the folks at Keeps were around. We've been talking about them. The folks at Keeps have the easiest and best and most effective way for you to keep your hair. 2 out of 3 guys are going to experience some kind of male pattern baldness by the time that they're 35. And the best way to prevent it is to do something about it while you still have your hair left. You don't want to go out to a doctor's office. You don't want to have them poking around on your scalp and then going and getting prescriptions filled. Thanks to Keeps, you can visit a doctor online. You can get hair loss medication delivered right to your home in a plain brown wrapper. So you can say goodbye to the pharmacy checkout line and the awkward doctor visits. He might want to stick his finger up your ass even if he's looking at your baldness. Keeps offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there. So they're cheaper than you have tried them before, if you've tried them before at all. And as we said, prevention is the key. This stuff ain't going to grow hair on a billiard ball. You got to start while you've still got some. And the treatments take between 4 to 6 months to see the full results. So the sooner you start using this stuff, the more hair you're going to save. If you go to Keeps, Keeps, Keeps.com/JCE, you're going to get your first month of treatment for free. Imagine how much hair I am saving with giving that deal out, Brian. Imagine how much hair that I'm going to be responsible for around the world that doesn't fall on the floor and stay stuck to your head because of all the listeners getting a month's treatment for free. Keeps.com, Keeps.com/JCE. Get your first month's treatment for free. Folks, once again, whether you like the way you feel when you get your hair cut, or now if you cut it yourself, or you comb it, or you just look at it in the mirror, you want to see more of it there, keep your shit with Keeps.
You know who may need Keeps? Triple H. I can never tell if he's bald or if he has a crew cut. I don't know what's going on with him.
I think he's shaving most of it because some of it went AWOL. But now he's been pressed back into service, right? Triple H is back in the game, as they say, because Drew came down with the COVID.
I'm not exactly sure what the long-term planning is with Triple H. I'm not exactly sure what happened on Raw. We saw the clips and we'll talk about him, but he did something.
Well, yeah, he was back and then he's gone again. And how are they going to explain this? All right. People wanted us to discuss this, so we checked it out. Apparently, because Drew McIntyre came down with COVID, they made a statement at the top of the program that that's what it was. Is that the first time that they have actually said that word on television and revealed that anybody had ever gotten it before, ever?
It's the first time I know of off the top of my head that they've acknowledged COVID-19.
Well, after a year of a pandemic, it's nice they've got with the fucking picture. But anyway, so he's out. Whatever they were going to be doing with him, he got shoved on his ass by Goldberg. They went off the air, and now next week he's got COVID. He's not having a good year. They keep trying to push this motherfucker. But anyway, so Randy Orton had to apparently confront Triple H because what are they going to do? They're rewriting their show because they ain't got their star. And I'm not going to shit on the verbal part of it. For once, I enjoyed the verbal part of something more than the physical. I know it's sports entertainment. It's not any semblance of a wrestling program or a sports program anymore. It was two guys in the ring, each one of them with a microphone, emoting dramatically scripted verbiage with facial expressions and dramatic gestures and looks away and etc. It's sports entertainment. It's not wrestling. But at least if you're going to do it, they do it about as well as anybody. You can kind of half-ass buy what they're saying, even though they're doing a good job of delivering written verbiage. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to be as nice as possible before I completely take this thing in the toilet. Two guys that are obviously good workers that look like grown adult men that can pull this off about as palatably as scripted verbiage instead of wrestling promos can be pulled off. It was dramatic emoting from the two top talents. So the verbal part, the promo leading to the match, and Randy Orton goading Triple H into the match wasn't bad. And do you have to check with Stephanie to see if you can get your balls out of her purse? Blah, blah, blah. There was no realism to this, and these guys could be real. If they wanted to be, and if that was what the style was, they could be halfway real and legitimate. I've seen Orton do it. Triple H probably has more in him than what we saw there, but the acting and the emoting is more important because it's sports entertainment. But that segment wasn't bad, and at least, okay, here's a fucking guy you don't see on TV every week, Triple H, against a main event guy, Randy Orton. At least that's a Raw main event, right? The verbal part. They get to the match. And once again, it's not a match, it's a fight. I'm sorry. He challenged him to a fight, not a match. I guess that still means that they just don't bother to have any rules and they don't have a referee or whatever. They just fight each other and then they go out and they bump around on the table. And once again, it's sports entertainment, but you got two grown men and they know how to work, so they're doing it well. And then the whole thing falls to complete shit. Triple H, Randy Orton either throws him in the ring or Randy rolls in the ring or whatever he's selling, and Helmsley goes underneath the ring and gets a sledgehammer. and pulls it out and makes all kinds, just stands there, stock still, making all kinds of dramatic facial expressions and looks and milking, incessantly milking, interminably milking the walk up the stairs into the ring. Is he going to hit Randy with the sledgehammer? And then Randy looks up and he's, oh my God. And the lights start going off. And I'm not sure. I think they were supposed to all go out, but they put them on separate fucking fuses or something because it was a... Did you detect that the lights went off in kind of like 2 or 3 stages and they were kind of standing there vamping, waiting for something to go on?
I wasn't sure if that was intentional or not intentional.
I wouldn't have had the lights go out in the stages if I'd have been them at that point. But nevertheless, the point is this thing had already come to a complete screeching halt. While they milk this fucking sledgehammer, is he going to kill him with the sledgehammer? I don't think he's going to kill him with the sledgehammer, just like I didn't believe that Randy Orton was going to burn the motherfucker alive and blah, blah, blah. But then suddenly when the lights go completely out and they come back on, some of them come back on, their lighting treatment comes back on, Triple H is gone, the sledgehammer's gone, Randy Orton's in an empty ring. This is the first time to me that I can remember that Triple H has made a drastic mistake in his presentation. Where did he go, Brian?
I have no idea.
Exactly. Triple H, the guy with the sledgehammer that was trying to consider whether or not he was going to murder this motherfucker he's fighting with the sledgehammer in the Attitude Era days when everybody was over. To get Triple H out of that ring, you would have had to have a platoon drag him out. But instead, because the lights go out and when they come back on, he's gone, that means he's in on it. That means he wasn't really mad at Randy Orton or he wouldn't have left. That means that he's in on whatever foolishness is going to happen next. That means it's all a show. We just saw behind the fucking magician's goddamn box that he saws the woman in half in and saw the mirrors in the goddamn compartments. That made no sense. He's gone and never seen again. Instead, Randy Orton's in the ring with a fucking Alexa Bliss that's 5 feet tall and 100 pounds and standing there looking at her like she's got turds in her mouth. And then she just reaches up and they couldn't even do this in one take. They had to special effects edit the thing, but she fires some kind of device at Orton and shoots a fireball in his face. And then nobody immediately hits the ring with a towel to cover it up or a wet towel or to create chaos or whatever. You just see Randy Orton for 45 seconds covering his hands with his face, which you wouldn't do to a severe burn, screaming and selling in pain, but not cursing at all, which you, believe me, wouldn't happen if you set Randy Orton's face on fire, and giving the viewers enough time to realize, well, this is phony as a football bat. And Triple H, by the way, is still gone. So what the fuck was that all about? You know, as I put Triple H over earlier for having more of a wrestling mind than Vince McMahon, and now I'm looking at what he was involved in, and I'm thinking maybe I fucking spoke too soon.
I don't know. Now we have both companies doing lights out.
He teleported.
And, yeah. Or was he even there to begin with? Was it a hologram? It's so stupid. I mean, it's hard to, the more we see it, it's hard to maintain the anger because it just keeps happening. And now it's Triple H doing it. It's one thing when it's Matt Hardy and Chris Jericho. It's another thing when it's Triple H. And now he's teleporting. And Randy Orton, I'll give him credit. Since we're just giving people positives and ignoring the negatives in some of the segments here, he's doing the best that I think he can with the material they're giving him.
Yeah.
Whether it was confronting Mark Henry on a scooter or this, he's doing as well as you can with the crap, but he's involved in a whole load of crap ever since we saw him burn the Fiend to death.
And even if it wasn't taking up for the wrestling business or wasn't taking up for the television program, even if Helmsley was just going to be selfish and just think of himself, that buried him. Where the fuck did he go? And, God damn it.
Now, is he on TV next week or is he not? Because if he's not, then you just ignore it. If he is, he has to say, and I was in the ring and the lights went out, and the next thing I know, I woke up in a tunnel. I didn't know how I got there. I didn't know what I was doing there or how to get back. I mean, you have to explain what the hell happened. It can't just be that there are wrestlers with magical powers that shoot fire.
But also, he didn't even have anything to do with it. It's just like he was dismissed like fucking Taka Michinoku, teleported out by this Alexa Bliss creature so she could shoot the... And a lot of people on Twitter asked, how did that compare with the fireball you hit Ronnie Garvin with? Oh, for fuck's sake.
No, they did not. Someone asked you that?
Yes, they did. We did ours in front of 8,000 people in one take with no camera tricks. That's how that compared. On all four sides of the ring. And I got death threats. Let's see if Alexa Bliss gets any death threats for setting fire to Randy Orton's face. I'm almost of the mind that I should call in some death threats to NXT to either get them to, if you don't improve the program, somebody's going to die. Do you think they'd know how to do it, or would they just send me somebody to sacrifice? They'd probably send old Austin Theory over to me to snuff. The fucking best quality fucking talent that they've got on the program practically, and they're using him as a stooge for a midget. What was the matter with this program?
NXT sucks. It sucks every single week. Maybe at best you get one segment or two that are okay. But this is a bad professional wrestling show. This is 2 hours of misery every week.
I actually started keeping the times of when something good happened and how far in the show it was. By the way, this is NXT for January 13th. We're speaking of. So we're going to try to have a little fun here because it just got to the point where we have to laugh. The opening match was Shitsy Blackfart versus Mrs. Sameface. Hit me in the head so I can see some stars. 20 minutes later, my fast forwarding got me out of that. The first 20 minutes of the show was Shitsy and Mrs. Sameface. Let that sink in for a second. Then we got to Finn Balor in the ring. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Here's a star. I can honestly say I like everything about Finn Balor except how he holds the microphone. Did you notice that?
I didn't.
What? He's holding the microphone in his right hand, and his right elbow was cocked at a 90+ degree angle up. And go back and watch this, and he was holding it out to the side. I don't know, it was very strange. Anyway, he did a pretty good job. Balor looks good. He's got the accent. He fucking delivers the material. He's a badass in the ring. And then here comes Pete Dunne, Lorcan, and Birch. And Dunne's got the microphone. And I was like, oh my God, Pete Dunne is going to talk. He has the emotion of a person under hypnosis. And every time he talks, I get very sleepy. He walked to the ring doing his hostage statement of how he wasn't going to wait any longer to get a hold of Balor. All I could think about was, where's fucking Pat McAfee? These guys with McAfee's mouth in front of them, you could buy these guys against the Undisputed Era, whatever. Left to their own devices, you have, there's Larry, there's Curly, and there's Shemp, there's no Mo. Anyway, they jump Balor, and suddenly a wrestling program broke out. Did you see the way Finn Balor fought back and creatively and believably and ducking and sticking and staying ahead? It was a nice little scrap. And the heels had to work to get Balor down. And that was fantastic. And as soon as they got him down, they got some fucking good heat on him when they got him. Remember, I always say that guys act like they've never got heat before. They got awkward heat or whatever. These guys were spaced evenly around him. They were throwing the boots. They were making some noise. Their fucking arms were flying. There was some sound and motion. They're getting some good heat. And then Kyle O'Reilly makes a comeback. They glom him. Strong and Cole make that save. This was the best physical angle in just a minute and a half, 90 seconds or whatever, that I've seen in ages on any program. They just nailed what they were supposed to do. And then Balor and Era have the stare down. But at that point, we were 30 minutes into this program, and we just seen two really good minutes. And that's the first 2 really good minutes of this program. So can they not just send Cole, Strong, O'Reilly, Fish, whenever he's back? Can they not just send them out there the whole time? They're the only consistent fucking guys. What'd you think?
I think Balor's great. He's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. For a smaller guy, he's physical. He's believable. Really good.
Dynamite kiddish.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Pete Dunne. I know others just love him and rave about him in the ring. And he is good in the ring. I don't think he's as good as other people make him out to be, but personality-wise, I don't see it. And considering they have a show called NXT UK, there's a lot of guys with British accents on this show.
Yes, a multiple amount, including with the announcer. Wait, we'll get to him in a minute, because, Anyway, the next match, the Grizzly Odd Jobbers against Everrise, who I guess we're going to just see Everrise every week. This is the Dusty Rhodes Classic. They've somehow put together 16 teams, and you can tell that they didn't have 16 teams to begin with. It ain't the fucking 86 Crockett Cup field, I'll tell you that. So
I don't know what's more offensive, the name Dusty Rhodes being attached to this or the word classic.
But I skipped this. Did I miss anything?
No, you missed nothing. 2 teams Good. I don't care at all about. You know, you would think Everrise, it's not the greatest name. And then Grizzled Young Veterans are there with the stupidest name of any tag team out there. Look, maybe these guys are good. I don't know. But if I'm supposed to give them a chance, they're not being presented in a way that's going to make me do that.
That's conducive to get you to actually watch any of their shit.
This show is boring. This show is just so boring.
Well, it wasn't really, because I've fast-forwarded most of it so far, so it wasn't really boring to me for one.
See, I don't do fast-forward. Usually when I get to a match like this or the Shitsy Blitzy match, on my cable remote, I have the option to skip ahead 30 seconds. That way, if I miss, if all of a sudden I see a guy celebrating, I'm like, I missed the finish. Let me go back 30 seckends. Sometimes with fast forward, you're like, oh shit, I went too far. Now I got to go back. Oh, I went far too back. I got to go forward. I just didn't want to see any of this. And the little bits I watched were just, of this match specifically, just who cares? They have AEW has a shit show tag division. NXT is the worst tag team division maybe of all time. Who cares about any of these teams? Other than, like you said, Strong and Adam Cole.
Most of these guys are good and well-trained, but most of them aren't great. And it's just, and the names and gimmicks and presentation that they're all given is just so blah and fake and nothing real and overproduced and all the same.
Yeah, when I first became a big wrestling fan, and I know, everyone gets in at a different time, but I love tag team wrestling. And in the WWF, you had the Hart Foundation, the Rockers, Demolition, the Brainbusters, you had the Rougeau Brothers, the Bushwhackers, the Powers of Pain. None of those teams were alike. They were all different. And the NWA, I had the Road Warriors, the Midnight Express, the Samoan Squat Team, Doom, the Steiners.
No, it was the Samoan SWAT team. The SWAT team.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, that was on my mind. By the way, great tag team name, SST, Samoan SWAT Team. None of those tag teams were anything like. Rock and Roll Express came back beginning of 1990. None of those tag teams were anything alike. Now everyone just seems in NXT so bland that they're interchangeable. If I took one guy from Everrise and put him with one of the Grizzled Young Veterans and said, this is the new tag team, it wouldn't make any difference. No one would care still. Who cares? Who cares about this match or this tournament? What's next?
All right. Well, there we go. Nice pitch. Dexter Lumis versus Johnny Sameface.
Now, hold on. Did you see the setup for this match?
I just fast-forwarded until they were all in the ring.
Johnny Gargano is doing an interview backstage with Mackenzie, who I'm starting to like. I actually think she's one of the best people on the entire stupid show. And he's, acting like a heel. I will say, once again, I think the hipster Hitler. That should be his gimmick. Because he's got the mustache in the middle that's thick, and then it's really thin all around it. He's got a Hitler mustache. But anyway, he's acting like a heel, and it comes across like he's acting. And then Austin Theory shows up behind him acting goofy and says, we got this envelope here from Dexter Lumis, this serial killer heel. And of course, it's a Jerry Lawler-like caricature of Johnny Gargano. And then you turn it around, it's a drawing, a cartoon of Austin Theory, and that sets up the match. This guy who doesn't talk, who stares through people, who does the crab walk, likes to draw cartoons.
He's an accomplished caricaturist.
He's a regular Mort Walker.
Well, Beetle Bailey, I'll just have you know. All right, 50 minutes into this program when this match starts. We haven't seen shit yet. By the way, the Hitler mustache thing, do you remember when Paul Jones had his army and had the fatigues and the riding crop and the helmet and everything? And he'd always had that big, thick Paul Jones mustache. And what he did was, he didn't just show up one week with the Hitler mustache. He started over a period of time, he shaved like a quarter of an inch off of each side. And he'd show up every week on TV, it'd be a quarter of an inch shorter. Until finally one day they looked, they said, that's a whole goddamn Hitler mustache. And then, no, Paul, and I think he had to get rid of the whole thing then. Anyway, I don't know what to say about this match. It looked like a bodybuilding mechanic beating up a junior high school male cheerleader. I can't take Gargano seriously. Yes, he does all the moves, even though he has the same face, and he's also 5'8" and 170 pounds. Lumis is incredibly athletic. We've talked about the gimmick that I think limits him. I do not see anger or hatred or animosity or triumph or fire or passion in his face or his body language as an element of robotic. He's gotten out of it a little bit, but, you know, and then there's Gargano's face. And basically, Austin Theory interferes, and Gargano rolls Lewis up and pins him. Loomis. It's 100 pounds. Lewis, whatever. Dexter Lewis. It's 100-pound fucking difference. There's a man and there's a child. Blah, blah, blah. But then Loomis got his hold on his fucking neck crank thing on Theory, who had kind of interfered. And that was the best 30 seconds of this because Theory was selling it. And he's so animated. And then the heels get on Loomis, and here comes Kushida and makes a big save. Helpful hint, guys, from somebody who's been in and around the wrestling business for 45 years. Just because you make a slapping noise, your punches can't miss by 1.5 feet. Did you catch that one? Kushida on the way out nailed Theory with the big Superman punch, and it was so super, the force of his fist, the wind off of it, caused Theory to sell it from 1.5 feet away. But there was a slap noise. And that, the fuck? And Gargano is the North American champion?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. He's a champion in this fight. Because so any wrestling fan who might flip by and say, oh, I'll give this a try, sees that and go, that's the fucking champion. The whole thing must be a fucking joke. And boom, done. Closing thoughts on your part?
No, I don't have any thoughts about this.
Good. I said we were going to laugh and have fun. Actually, we had to suffer through this to get to the laughing later. Two other guys that I like. I wanted to see their match last week, and they postponed it. Now, apparently, it's going to be next week, the Fight Pit match. Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa. A sit-down interview in a studio somewhere with Wade Barrett. Did they just take this off of a 2008 TNA show? Because that's what spooky background music, building tension, robotic announcer questions that Wade Barrett was obviously, I mean, it wasn't even a hostage statement delivery. It was more like animatronic. He had obviously either memorized these or were reading them off of a cue card. And then Thatcher and Ciampa do a dramatic in quotation marks, delivery of scripted verbiage like it was a movie scene. And they're acting like they're actors acting in a movie. And I hated this. It was absolutely fake. It made me not like two of my favorite guys on this program because especially the only two guys that look serious normally in their matches and look like something could be legitimate about them. And this was one of the phoniest things on the whole program. Am I being too hard on this, or was this obviously slap you in the face, fake, pretend movie acting?
It was acting. It was the same exact thought I had.
Well, at least I know that I wasn't crazy. And then they did an Undisputed Era promo in the back that was about a minute long and was the most personality that anybody had shown on the program with Cole and O'Reilly and Roddy. And then the next match, I believe this one is also in the Dusty Rhodes Classic. Jim Crockett Sr. didn't have to fucking put up with this. Jake Atlas and Swerve Scott tag teamed against the team of MSK. And all through the show, they were billboarding the debut of MSK, and they were asking the question, who is MSK? They had a graphic of them that had just black outlines. You couldn't see any, there were no people there. Brand new team. We don't know anything about them. Who's it going to be? Was that the biggest fucking letdown? Turned out, who is MSK? Nobody else knows either. Two unknown, never heard of guys come out. And the way they announced them, they had a lower third graphic for a team name that said MSK, but they announced their names. But the way they announced it, I thought they said, what's the guy's name? Carter? Something Carter? Ash Carter? Anyway, I thought they said Ass Cutter.
Nash Carter.
I thought they said Ass Cutter and Wes Lee. I'm like, Ass Cutter?
Apparently they used to be in Impact as the Rascals.
You mean they've actually been a team for a while and worked before and somebody's seen them and they decided to debut them on television?
I'm looking it up, and apparently they were in Impact. They were the Rascals.
Wow.
Their former names are Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz, and now they are Wes Lee and Nash Carter.
Wow, I thought this was a team that they were bringing in from the training program and trying to give a big debut to, but that they were new and had not been, okay, well, now I can't be complimentary. I will say, Jake Atlas is given serious competition to Johnny Sameface for the most boring award. I'll say that. He's in everything. You can't get rid of this guy. Remember, we had to see Atlas every week. We couldn't ever see Theory at all. The first MSK guy starts with Atlas, and he has a muffin top and prison tattoos. He's like a dumpy white guy that's like average height of the rest of these guys and no physical definition whatsoever. Bad, either do-it-yourself or prison tattoos, and fucking his conditioning is horrible. And he's never seen a tanning bed. And he and Atlas did some gymnastics, because he can do that, I guess. And then Swerve gets in, and they did some gymnastics. And I'm like, okay, are they heels? Are they baby faces? Who's on which side here? What the fuck? You can't tell from watching this match who you're supposed to be cheering for. They're just doing some moves. And then Wes Lee. So the first guy, the Nash Carter guy, was the guy with the prison tattoos and the muffin top. Wes Lee comes in. He's got a great body. He's ripped. He looks good. He locks up with Swerve and gets a hold, and he couldn't figure out the very first hold he got. Did you see that? He got Swerve's wrist, and he took him down, and then Swerve was trying to get him to spin around and do something, and he's just holding the wrist, and then he's looking at it, and Swerve's trying to kick him and do something, and finally Swerve just jerked him down and gave him a knee to the face and fucking grabbed the guy and slung him to the corner and made him tag out. Or no, Swerve tagged out. He cut him off and tagged out and let the other guy worry about him. And then they went into a big, long fucking deal where everybody hit a move on somebody back and forth, just one right after another, and you couldn't tell who was doing what, and they went to the break in a complete mess because they're trying to show this new team that has all these moves. The whole thing, second half was even worse. And the problem is, it's the biggest mess I've ever seen with two unknown guys and two underneath guys, Atlas and Swerve, You can't just go out there and go 100 miles an hour. People lose track of which one or who they're watching. Not only that, but they can't keep track of which team is ahead because it's not visually obvious to begin with. So they did so much goofy shit in this thing, it should have been on AEW. And that's the thing. You rarely see this much obvious cooperation in NXT because they're usually trained better. That's why I thought these guys were brand new. At one point, old Wes Lee got a tag for a comeback and actually got back in the corner and pointed at the guy in the opposite corner that he was about to run into and yelled, "Stay there!" Did you see that?
I don't remember.
He got a tag. He got in. He's running wild. There's a guy in a corner. He points at him while he's looking at the guy's partner. He screams, "Stay there!" And then he runs and hits him. And then this was some of the part where I was having fun because Stacy had just been walking Harley and she comes in the door right after this had happened. And I backed it up. I said, "Watch this." They put, I believe it was Atlas, down in the middle of the ring. And the prison tattoo guy gets next to Atlas's feet to do a backflip. And the guy that couldn't figure out the wrist lock, while the backflipper's in the middle of his backflip, he pushed backflipper 3 or 4 feet forward so he landed on Atlas because the guy was going to backflip and miss Atlas completely on purpose. And she started laughing and said, "Why didn't he just backflip onto the guy? The guy's laying there motionless. You could have just backflipped on the guy." But no, he gets completely down at his feet and backflips nothing so that his partner can shove him onto the guy. Did you see that move?
I did see that, yeah.
Why didn't the pusher just stand over Atlas's head and the backflip like he's going to backflip onto Atlas, and then the pusher push him down with emphasis, like boom? That would make too much sense. Anyway, this was rotten. And the fucking white guy in MSK looks like a tattooed sewer worker. And we were an hour and a half in this fucking program. Who won? I can't remember. Did I write it down? No.
MSK, I think, won.
Okay, well, good. That's good for them. What'd you think?
You summed up my thoughts. I don't give a shit. I didn't care. They didn't impress me. Who's MSK going to be? And I saw like various theories online. But it's the Rascals, who I've never seen or heard of before.
It's the Rascals. Which one's Spanky? Which one's Alfalfa? The little Rascals. The next match on this parade of terror. Xia Li is back on the fucking monkey hormone. She's probably gained 25 pounds since they've been doing those vignettes where they were starving her and beating her in prison. She came out of fucking a penitentiary and gained weight. She's on the Hogan vitamins, and she wrestled. Actually, no, she didn't. There was no wrestling involved, but I didn't get the girl's name. But they circled around, and then the girl ran at Xia Li. Actually didn't run at her, ran past her. And as she ran past, Xia Li completely whiffed and missed a punch to the girl's face, but the girl went down. She went down when she heard the leg slap noise. That's how she knew to go down. And then Xia Li did a spin kick that the girl stood up into, and the girl blocked the spin kick to the chest with both hands in front of her face, which she didn't even need because the kick was going to be in the right place. But that's when you block kicks like that, that's how you get a busted face, because your hands get kicked into your face. If she'd have left well enough alone and just stuck her tits out there, she'd have been fine. But anyway, and then 1, 2, 3. I think that's the only match I've ever seen where 100% of the moves were missed.
I thought this was the highlight of the show. It was quick. I like Xia Li. She seems intense. She seems like she's actually believable. I don't know they got rid of the old guy. Now there's just some creep sitting in the back. I don't know who that is, but...
Is that an old man or an old woman under the mask in the chair?
You're assuming old. We don't even know that, but this was under 2 minutes, and I liked it better than everything else on this show.
The main event, 1 hour and 45 minutes into this program. A semblance of a main event, if you will. Fan Dancer Or Breeze, what is their real name? Breezango, Tyler Breeze and Fandango. Right, Fan Dancer, whatever the fuck. It's we've talked about it's a rotten gimmick. But past that, Tyler Breeze is an okay worker and an average white guy. And that's it. Nothing special on the look, and he doesn't do nothing special. And Fandango has been in the middle forever, and you know what you're getting there. It is what it is. And the gimmick is brutal. Roddy and Cole are a step ahead of everybody else on this show so far. And so this was an okay tag match. You know who's going to win. At least you hope you know who's going to win, because this would have been a crime if it had gone the other way. But during this match, Harley needed belly rubs and got her duck. And as soon as I realized what was going on, it was pretty much over. Pete Dunne and his bald-headed Britishers attacked Kyle O'Reilly, who was on the floor, to make sure that nobody interfered, and then Finn Balor saved him, but then they got Finn Balor down in a big schmoz on the floor. But then basically all those guys disappeared, and the match in the ring started again, and Undisputed Era won. And it was a nice action in the whole fight and everything, but it was a mess of a finish. That was what it was. The best part about it was rubbing Harley's belly.
I can't add anything else to that. I mean, this show sucks. I mean, it sucks. And I like Cole and I like Strong, and they're in there with a tag team that I don't know why anyone would want to see on TV anymore at this point. We've seen them forever. They even gave them the tag team titles after them just being jokes on the show for a while. They were jokes on the main roster. Even though I think Fandango actually had a lot of talent, but he was used in that manner for a long time. Tyler Breeze.
I'm not going to take anybody named Fandango seriously.
Tyler Breeze, like you said, at least he used to have a look. Now he just looks like a generic guy. And I knew who was going to win this match. There was no question of that before the main event even started. And I hate NXT. It's so bad. Maybe it would be better if it was 1 hour and they tried to get a bunch of this shit in there. But it has become unwatchable.
And the problem is, if it was an hour, I guarantee you they'd concentrate on the same face family and some of these goofy gimmicks and flippers instead of the real talent that they have, which is getting thinner now, apparently. If we're not going to see Priest and Ripley on this program anymore, goddamn, we may have to. But what is our options? Then we have to watch either Raw or SmackDown.
Well, we don't have to weigh AEW against another show. We could find a way.
No, it sucks all on its own.
Yeah. AEW, I can watch and it's bad. And I'm like, okay, there's stuff to talk about here. NXT's just so insipid. It's so fucking bad. I don't even understand why anyone likes it. AEW, I'm not crazy about a lot on that show, but I understand why people like it. I don't have any idea why anyone has liked NXT for at least the last year. Because it's not a good show.
Well, I think, I understand why people like AEW, because some people are demented and delusional. But I don't know. Anyway, that was NXT. We'll go over to AEW in a minute, but for heaven's sake.
And then there was a brawl at the end. I don't know if you even saw that.
Well, yeah, there was a big fight with everybody, right? There's always a big fight with everybody. It's the same thing every week. They had a big fight, right?
Yeah, and then Finn Balor came out to help the Undisputed Era, and then they gave each other weird looks. And
yes, they all stare at each other after the people who perpetrated the shit disappear for no apparent reason. I don't know.
Well, that was NXT, and I will say, if you ever said, Brian, I don't know if we're going to watch NXT anymore, I wouldn't put up a fight. Because even if something really good happens, we'll hear about it. I mean, we can DVR it.
Let's see what they do with the fight pit next. I think we're going to have to. This is going to be the first war where nobody actually wins. It's just everybody got sick and tired of looking at both sides and just went home.
Man, look at the matches these shows put on first. There is no war. There is no war. It's just two countries, lobbing missiles into the sea. There's no war. 20 minutes. Shotzi Blackheart versus Candice LeRae. 20 minutes. There's no war. There is no war.
Shots into the sea. Shots into the sea with Shotzi. Folks, if you are sick and tired of watching crummy wrestling and you want to make 2021 your year, It's time to change things up. We may be changing things up. We may just say, fuck it, and throw our hands up on this NXT program. You may want to say, fuck it, it's time to change things up. I'm going to throw my hands up in the air and start with some self-care. Well, if you do that, you need to start with Hawthorne, because Hawthorne is the premium tailored personal care brand that makes it easy for guys to feel and smell their very best. You go on the website, you take the quiz. What's your favorite drink? How do you like to spend the night out? You give them the answers, and they factor your answers into the results, and they recommend products for you that are tailored to your interests, to your needs, to your wants, and to your likes. And don't we all want tailored shit? Folks, I know that if you take this quiz today and start on your personalized self-care routine by going to Hawthorne, that's HAWTHORNE, Hawthorne.co. If you do that and use the promo code JIM, J-I-M, you'll get 10% off your first purchase. Purchase? Did I say purchase? Baba Wawa. I'm very happy. Off your first purchase. That's Hawthorne.co, promo code JIM. They've got the soaps, the potions, the lotions, the personal care products that you will enjoy, and they take the risk out of it by giving you free shipping on your order and free shipping on the returns. If you don't like your products, they'll retailer them for you based on your feedback. If you want to upgrade your self-care routine, folks, it's a fun and convenient way to get super high-quality products tailored specifically for your needs. You got some tailored soap.
They did.
They tailored it.
I reordered more, actually.
They brought the inseam up to where you wanted it, and they had those lapels on that bar of soap real nice and everything, the tailored soap. I know I can smell you from here. You smell great.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's all because of Hawthorne.
That's exactly who it's because of. That's who's at fault here. Hawthorne. They're the reason why Last smells so good. Hawthorne.co, and the promo code is Jim. You know what to do. Go from there. What are you doing, Brian Last, this week on your various programming?
When I'm not using my Hawthorne, and I have to say, I talked before about how much I love the dark rum hand soap, the bar soap that is tailored based on my quiz results is so good. That's the one I just reordered. It's the best bar soap I've ever had. But this week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, another action-packed week. Get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few notes. The most recent episodes of Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam have been a two-part look at the MVPs of the WWF during the Bob Backlund years. A very interesting long-form look at some of the many great wrestlers that were in there, from Don Morocco to Greg Valentine to Pat Patterson to Kung Fu Billy Graham. Find out what John McAdam says about that.
He had a Kung Fu grip.
Is there anything crazier than Billy Graham, the big star they had there, returning after Gorilla Monsoon put in the Philadelphia paper that he died, returning with a bald head, looking completely different than he ever looked before.
A karate gimmick, wearing all black, no tie-dye. It was horrible.
There is no one who has ever shown less karate ability in wrestling history than Karate Billy Graham. But hear what John McAdam has to say about that. McAdamPod.com, or search for Stick to Wrestling wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Also want to talk about John Orezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight. Then and now, of course, John and myself go back and review the original broadcast of Pro Wrestling Spotlight from 30 years ago in 1990. Well, actually, that's now 31 years ago, but it's in 1990 what we're up to right now. We play clips of the classic episodes. You can get access to the full episodes at patreon.com/Orezzi. But we talk all about what was happening in the world of wrestling. And actually, the most recent episode that is already up, Jim, you are one of the big topics of conversation on there.
Me?
I'd like to play you some clips. This is from November of 1990. We'll talk about these clips, but here's the first one from Don Libel's news update on Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
Let's get right to it.
Now to the wrestling news, John. Wrestling's top story this week comes from the National Wrestling Alliance.
as manager Jim Cornette and one half of his Midnight Express tag team, Sweet Stan Lane, have bolted from their contractual obligations with the NWA. According to a source close to Cornette, stated differences with Ole Anderson at this past week's television tapings were the straw that broke the camel's back between them. Beautiful Bobby Eaton, the other member of the Express, remains on the NWA talent roster, and Cornette denies any claims that he will be joining the World Wrestling Federation ranks anytime soon.
Well, there it is. That's the first clip of the news update.
Donnie sounds like Mickey Mouse on helium on these cassettes from 30 years ago.
This next clip is really interesting. And once again, let me mention, you can hear the episode where we review this at pwspod.com or search for John Orezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight Then and Now, wherever you find your favorite podcast. But of course, back then, one of the big newsletters was Steve Beverly's Mat Watch. And he also got a spot on the WCW hotline. So, I mean, he was a name that inside fans knew, and he was also mentioned on TV at times because of the hotline. And after you quit, you called up Steve Beverly. Here's Steve Beverly's report of that call.
Other news this week in the NWA, big news, Jim Cornette leaving, storming out, taking Stan Lane with him, but Bobby Eaton remains. Your comments on this?
Well, I talked to Cornette for a long time Thursday night. This is something that has been coming to people who really are not into the inside of the business that well. And I guess this is one way your show and wrestling newsletters fill in that blank. This is something that's been building with Cornette for several months, really almost for a year. From the time Jim Cornette was placed on the NWA booking committee late last year, in which there was tremendous infighting between different factions on that committee. And I think when Jim got to that level, it really burned him out on the business itself, and it soured him a lot on the business itself. It was during that period that he was sitting up a lot of nights. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of the TV shows that were fairly exciting in the first quarter of this year were actually prepared by Cornette. He was the one who had the creative mind behind it. And I think that it was during that period, he was up until 3, 4, 4:30 in the morning doing all of this. It was during that time that he put on about 60 pounds, which he hasn't been able to get off.
It wasn't that much.
And then, coupled with that, then he got off the booking committee, and coupled with that, then the Midnight Express, it's quite obvious they are not, in the current regime's way of thinking, going to be pushed very heavily into major programs. And Cornette was unhappy about this, and I think really Jim needs a rest. I think he needs some time to back away and maybe refresh his perspective. He's really not happy with the direction of the wrestling business in general with any group right now, except for some of the independent promoters. The story right now is that and Stan Lane went with him. Stan has been really anxious to get out for a little while. Bobby Eaton is staying because Bobby has a number of pressing personal financial obligations that he has to meet, and there is no ill feelings that one's staying and the other two are going. They knew this when they decided to take a walk Tuesday night. Bobby will probably fulfill his contract through May the 15th, which is when it expires. And then I would imagine the Midnight Express will reform. They will probably work independent dates, and Cornette says the most likely thing is that they'll try going to Japan.
Yeah, he pretty much has ruled out trying to get into the WWF at this point.
Yeah, he does not want to go to the WWF, although, anybody can change their minds.
Of course.
But right now, cash flow problems in the WWF, a lot of guys are not making the kind of money they did when wrestling was at its peak in 85 and 86. So financially, it would probably not be very advantageous over what he's doing now to go to the WWF. And also, he doesn't like the way they do wrestling. Cornette is still somewhat, he believes in personality and flair, but he is enough of a traditionalist that he doesn't like cartoon shows. He was very unhappy. Now, I personally was entertained by Halloween Havoc last night, and he and I had some disagreement about this. But Corny was very unhappy with the extensive costuming on the people last week on Halloween Havoc, and he felt like it was getting to be more of a Barnum and Bailey show as opposed to a wrestling show, and Corny is still enough of a traditionalist that that's what he prefers. And I think that, he's entitled to that view. But he, for that reason, does not want to go to the WWF.
Well, it's sad to see, that Cornette is out of the NWA at this time, but I'm sure that fans will see him again somewhere, someplace, and next weekend will be a good opportunity for fans here on the East Coast to see the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette for the last time together, at least till next year.
One more brief clip, Jim, and then we'll talk about all this.
You teased them. People are saying, well, how are they going to be back together? That's when we did the benefit show for Tom Robinson for Dennis Coralluzzo up in Pennsylvania.
Listen to this last clip, and then we'll talk about this.
Evan from Great Neck, you're next.
How you doing, John?
Good.
First, I got to ask for a moment of silence if the Midnight Express are broken up.
All right.
So let's do that right now.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
There it is. You got a moment of silence.
Got a moment of silence from
2 seconds.
John from Newark or whatever. And Steve Beverly, I resent the implication that I gained 60 pounds. It was more like 40. And yeah, as you mentioned, Steve Beverly at the time was not only, he had started doing Mat Watch. Steve was has a long history in television and especially working in local television, and was teaching down at Auburn University, television and radio communications, things like that. But he was a wrestling fan a long time. And he, along with when Jim Herd was, maybe that's something we can say about Herd that was kind of positive. He was trying to get fan voices and knowledgeable outsiders involved, like Joe Pedicino and Steve Beverly, and he put them on the hotline and gave Joe his interview segment on television or whatever. And he was trying to get that input because he trusted those guys. Joe was working in local television and radio down in Georgia. He trusted those guys more than he trusted the wrestling people because he viewed them as TV people who knew wrestling. Now, the problem is they only knew wrestling really from the outside, especially Steve, but he was a bright guy. And Steve had been one of my and one of our champions, as far as promoting myself and the Midnight Express and saying good things about us and the hotline or whatever. And so he's one of the people, obviously, that I talked to. We left on a Tuesday. I didn't speak to anybody on a Wednesday. And then on Thursday, everybody had heard what went on. There was no internet back then, but telephone, telegraph, and telewrestler. And so I talked to some of those guys, and I told them why I left, why we left, why we were pissed, and why we weren't coming back. Now, having said that, I didn't tell him about Smoky Mountain Wrestling and what I was intending to do. I said that the Midnight Express, the plan was, obviously, for Bobby to fulfill his contract until the following May. We had no idea. We never dreamed they would try to sign him again. So we thought we'd all be available in May. That was going to of the following year, which was going to hopefully coincide with the starting year of Smoky Mountain in my mind. So I couldn't tell Steve about that ahead of time. So I said, well, at Midnight, I'll probably go to Japan. We'll do some independence. That
was one of the most surprising things to me was Cornette said Japan is an option. I said, oh, that's news.
Yeah, well, he said that I never said I was going to go to Japan. And honestly, at the time, if they had gotten an offer and a good deal or whatever, they probably would have, just for something to do that year, because we'd never had the opportunity to go to Japan before. We never had any time off since we'd been a team. Didn't have any fucking break whatsoever. So they could have done that, made some money. Stan ended up going in 92 by himself just before 92 or 93, before he retired from the ring completely. But anyway, the point is, every time that Bobby's contract came up from that point on until the year 2000, I believe, or 1999, right before WCW closed down, everybody had overruled Herd and told him they had to re-sign Bobby Eaton. You couldn't let Bobby Eaton go. And through each successive administration, he was the one guy that all the agents, all the bookers, etc., would say, no, you got to re-sign this guy just for what he's done for the business, what he's meant to the business, even though they didn't use him. So he ended up being the longest running wrestler signed to a WCW contract without interruption in the history of Turner owning the company. That's when the heavily bodies were needed and Smoky Mountain was up. That's where Tom Pritchard came in. But anyway, so that's during that time period. That's, we didn't want to tell everybody exactly what was up, but we had to tell them something.
Like I said, hear more about what was happening in wrestling in 1990. There's also a truly wild Larry Zbyszko interview on here. But hear it at pwspod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Look for John Orezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight Then and Now. Also, of course, the 605 Superpodcast, the Mothership!
Ah, shit, I ducked and you still hit me with it.
The latest episode in production right now, I can announce the very first interview with Tim Hornbaker, all about his new book, Master of the Ring, the biography of Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, will be on the Superpodcast. Should be out next week. Stay tuned for more information. Go through the archive today. 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mothership!
All I think about when I think about you is mother something. Anyway, speaking of mother something, should we talk about our newest self-admitted COVID sufferer? Wouldn't you know who won the COVID? Chris Jericovid. We've been joking about it. He really did get COVID, and he claims on his own podcast that he got it, I guess sometime around September was, I believe, the quote from him, right?
Yeah.
I guess sometime around September. Wouldn't you remember the exact date that someone told you had the most notorious disease on the planet? And wouldn't you remember when you had to avoid any other human contact for 14 days? Unless you didn't? How the fuck do you... Yeah, I kind of remember sometime around September. Where was that in relation to him going and letting all the bikers in Sturgis slobber all over him? What was the timeline there? Do we know this?
Looking up the Sturgis rally now, I think it may have been August, but
well, that sounds about right.
Sturgis rally. The Sturgis rally was August 6th to 15th. Oh no, that's next year. That's the 2021 dates. But beginning of August, I think we could safely say here, as I'm looking for.
Sometime around September, he said. Do you think he's obfuscating the exact dates so that he doesn't get completely shit on by all the people that said, what the fuck, you're going to Sturgis in the middle of a pandemic with all these right-wing biker fucks? Obviously not practicing social distancing, obviously not believing in masks, obviously not believing in the pandemic, because that's the same kind of crowd as these patriot fucks, the domestic terrorists. I remember when bikers were supposed to be cool. Now they're a bunch of old miserable white fucks too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we don't know where he got it. The point is, it could have been there. So many other people.
It could have been here, there, everywhere. It could have got it from El Kabong. There's Travis. I made this one easy for you. What the fuck? Bobby Fulton, as I mentioned last week on the drive-thru, has to go to work and expose himself to these non-mask wearing slobbering fucks so he can have his health insurance to continue his treatments. And now he can't continue his treatments because he's got COVID because of the non-mask wearing fucks. But Jericho has the money to do whatever he wants, and he goes and lets bikers drool on him. And then willy-nilly goes around infecting who knows who. Wasn't one of the young fucks was down and sick in September also? That's why we only saw what was supposedly, allegedly, his foot on one of the programs.
Nick Jackson also had COVID. Apparently, he had it pretty bad. Lance Archer disappeared off TV for a little while. He had it. I mean, the question's now going to be asked anytime someone disappears off AEW TV, where did they go?
We're not prying into people. By the way, we're not prying into people's personal business here, but it's an example of everybody was saying, why is Jericho doing this? Why is he going to play that? He play that concert in the middle of a pandemic. He tweeted out, there was 7 cases from the Sturgis rally out of 500,000 people, making a little frilly willy-nilly thing about it until they found out that Sturgis caused tens of thousands of cases as it went on and multiplied. And now we found out that he's a fucking right-wing lunatic and a conspiracy theorist himself. And here's the thing. Everybody has been hearing me knock Chris Jericho, my old buddy and friend and lifelong pal, for quite some time now. At first, we said he was the star of the show. He realizes he's the only mainstream star they've got that can still go, that everybody knows who the fuck he is. He can use his own name. He's going to be the top heel. He's going to carry this company on his back. And about 3 months in, suddenly he started playing with the cool kids and running angles with pockets and having programs with all the fucking little darlings instead of being a serious top heel. And we've panned him since then, but still people say, well, do you want his carcass boiled in oil and the fat sold for soap like you'd like to see done with Olivier? No, I can honestly say that even though Chris had been embarrassing me and making me frustrated with his activity, and I thought he should be ashamed of himself for what he's capable of doing versus what he's been doing to try to help teach these young idiots instead of falling in with them and validating their bad habits. If he was hanging from his fingernails off the edge of a cliff, I would have still thrown him a rope. If he was on fire, I wouldn't have pissed on him. I'd actually gone and got a water hose and put him out. Because it's still you could admire and respect what he had done in wrestling. He's been there. He's achieved at a high level. And what we had to say constantly was, he's better than this. Why is he doing this? But I still had to, as we did the list earlier, say positive things about him. But now, and it's not even the COVID thing, just being stupid about COVID. But now it's finding out all the other things that we didn't know about Chris, such as he's delusional. And he actually gave $40,000 to Donald Trump to get reelected. He thought that this fucking criminal deserved another chance. He's with them. Whether he was always one of them or whether they've brainwashed him, the fact is that now I can say, desecrating the wrestling business even didn't break my friendship with Chris Jericho. I still would have thrown him that rope if he was hanging off the edge of a cliff. But now that I know that he felt so strongly that Donald fucking Trump should get 4 more years to bring an end to this country as we know it and create chaos around the world and kill who knows how many other people and be responsible for the deaths of who knows how many other people. Chris, don't be on a cliff around me, because fuck you, you can fucking drop. And this is from Jim to Chris. Fuck you. Fuck you. You're a filthy human being that supported a filthy, disgusting pig. And that's why you get my fuck you. We are no longer friends and never will be again. And I don't feel bad at all anymore about fucking taking apart your shitty fucking performances on this fucking supposed wrestling program. You've infected people now. You got infected yourself because you've been listening to this fucking Mango Mussolini and you think just like him. And I'm ashamed of you. And I'm sorry that I asked Lance Storm, hey, can you bring that guy you were working with in your audition video along? He looks good too. I'm sorry I said that, because now I played a part in you being able to be successful enough to give Donald fucking Trump $40,000. You got too much money, Chris, and too little sense. And there's no fucking handicapped children or abused animals that could have used that money. Fuck you. All right.
Well,
there's our section called Wouldn't You Know Who Won the COVID?
You know, I've obviously had issues with Jericho's work for quite a while because it's been substandard and bad, and his comedy is atrocious, and he insists on constantly putting his bad brand of comedy into everything. But is there anyone who's been more pampered in the last 2 years, the last year and a half by the wrestling business than Chris Jericho? AEW fluffs him left and right. They gave him an attraction for his cruise and had their show on his cruise. They not only play his awful music during their television shows, but when it's a taped show, just to fluff his ego, they edit the chorus so it repeats twice, because that never happens when it's the live crowd there, and he got upset, and he wanted them to do it twice, because that's how he does it in the song. No one would know that, because no one listens to the fucking song unless it's on the wrestling show. He has a clothing line. They advertise his clothing line on their show.
His bubbly.
He has been pampered more than anyone else. And this is why the guy who always said, I will never work against Vince. I will never work against... Wait, what? You'll let me do all these things I want to do? Absolutely, I will work against Vince. Fuck Vince. Vince who?
Loyalty goes a long way.
You know, in the COVID thing, he is someone...
A long way away.
He is someone apparently who he's had COVID deniers on his show.
He had Donald Trump Jr. on his fucking show and then had a picture taken with the piece of shit, smiling.
He's really an ignorant guy. And I know a lot of people in wrestling think like, oh, he's a bright guy. He's been able to stay on top of these various things. Maybe at best you could say he's wrestling smart. Maybe. But I'm sorry. This is a guy desperately trying to hang on who has no concept of how to make it work. And it's been pathetic. The last year, give or take, has been pathetic. Not just in the ring, but outside of the ring. And him going to that Sturgis concert, he should have been reprimanded, kept off TV for a while, if not fired for doing that.
When was he off TV? When was he, if he got COVID, and he said he didn't have any symptoms, so was he just wandering around doing what he normally would do every day, infecting everybody else? When was there a time where he was away from everybody for 14 days? I'd like to track that down.
I believe from what I read, and this could be wrong because I didn't hear it, I read it, he said that he quarantined for 10 days. And remember, they tape TV usually every 2 weeks. They tape 2 weeks of TV. And even if he doesn't have symptoms, that doesn't mean he can't transmit the disease.
Obviously.
Yeah. But a lot of guys in AEW have gone down with COVID that we know of. But, you know, I thought about it this week after the Jericho news when we saw Jungle Boy and FTR on the show. Like, man, I haven't seen these guys wrestle on TV in a while. I mean, now I have that thought because of Jericho. And because we know about Nick Jackson. And because we know about Lance Archer. And it's hard enough. You know, the NBA had a bubble where they kept everyone in the same location, limited exposure to anyone on the outside to try to play a season. Major League Baseball also tried as hard as they could to keep everything confined. AEW has wrestlers working indie shows? Has wrestlers doing the Sturgis bike rally in South Dakota?
And every single one of those indie shows you see followed by a fucking notice about a week later or even less. Hey, everybody get tested. Everybody was there. It used to be it was the hardcore deathmatch garbage business, and they'd say, please get tested for HIV and Hep C and any bloodborne illnesses. Now it's just go to a wrestling show and then get tested for disease 4 or 5 days later.
And the one benefit AEW had with Chris Jericho was people knew who he was. And we saw how that worked out when the NBA fans stayed tuned after the game to see this guy that they remember from years ago in WWF. It made him look bad. It made the company look bad.
And they don't need any help at that because they've got a 2-hour television program to do that for them. And boy, did this. Do you want to talk about this program? I guess we've stalled off as long as we can.
Want to and have to are two different things, but well, let's do it. Let's talk about this show. There was one segment I very much got a kick out of in the traditional Cody Jade Cargill.
I know. I was about to say I knew which segment it was. You got a kick out of. All right. Well, AEW for January 13th. 13's a lucky number. Started out a Pac against Eddie Kingston, and we've said good things about both these guys. Pac looks like a monster. Great look, great body, great athlete. Work is good. Kingston, we love his promos. He looks like a real guy. But this together, I don't know, was a clash of styles again, or just that there's nobody to give them guidance. They did a big package, a big buildup to the hatred between these two guys. The animosity and the hatred and people are going to fight. And in the first 10 seconds from Pac hits the ring, Eddie Kingston bumps to the floor and stands there and waits 10 seconds for Pac to fucking flip over the top rope and dive on him. And that just killed. I rolled my eyes and zoned out for a minute. That's like that story Ron Fuller tells of his cousins that had an issue where the one guy's shot got canceled. And so he came home early and found his cousin in bed with his wife, and they had a big fucking wing-ding about it. And everybody found out about it. And then they booked a match between those two guys. And the fucking locker room was the curtain was sold out, the whole locker room emptied because they figured it was going to be a shoot. And some of the fans that were kind of in the know, oh, they're really going to go after it. And then everybody's watching, the bell rings, and they fucking look at each other, and they lock up. And the boys, well, goddamn. What a letdown. Couldn't you wait 30 seconds to do something obviously fake if you're two guys who really want to pull this thing off? And basically, both guys' worst instincts came out here because it was an indie match. Every indie strong style, quote unquote, match, there was, who's the baby face? First, Pac was kicking the shit out of Kingston, and Kingston was selling very well. But who's the baby face? Kingston? Why would Eddie Kingston be a baby face? And then Kingston dumped Pac out on the floor, and Bunny raked Pac's eyes, so Pac is the baby face. Why would Pac be the baby face? Why do I care if heels are fighting each other? Who are you supposed to cheer for? Pac's body is so good, it made poor Eddie Kingston look worse by comparison. And they had an indie match. No heel, no babyface. They did kicks and chops and moves and waited for the other guy to hit him hard. Eddie Kingston can sell. He could be a tough guy / average man babyface. He can sell. But this booking is so fucked up. Pac could be a beast of a heel, but he does dives and flips just because he can. So then there's nobody tell him don't. So neither one of them, it's just guys doing shit to each other. The match was rotten. And then the finish, Kingston goes for his DDT. Pac holds onto the ropes. Kingston takes a bump and hits his head, turns over on his knees. Okay. Now Pac runs and hits him with a drop kick. While Kingston's on his knees, the drop kick was a foot off the ground, the most unimpressive thing he could possibly do, and no way for the guy to take a bump. And then as Eddie takes the bump and rolls over to get in place for the finish, Pac doesn't think he's in the right place, so he grabs his arm and pulls him over there and then goes up to the top rope and bobbles for a second. After 13 seconds, after Kingston got drop kicked, finally Pac hits a fucking backflip, spinning splash, whatever the fuck, off the top. And of course, Eddie's right there to catch him with open arms. Boom, 1, 2, 3. You couldn't even figure a finish where when Pac foils Kingston and plants him, he plants him in the right spot to begin with. There has to be this awkward pulling people around, and then he goes up and stands there forever till he gets his balance and blah, blah, blah. Rotten fucking finish. Rotten fucking. They can't even present the talent that has something in a good light, because they either put them with the wrong people or in a stupid fucking heel match or a babyface match or a poorly fucking fleshed out fucking confrontation that makes both guys look worse. I don't know what you think. Was this Jade Cargill worthy?
No, I agree with you. It didn't gel for me. Two heels. Not sure, when it's babyface versus heel, you know who to cheer. When it's heel versus heel, at best you cheer it. The idea. Well,
and also the guys know how to work the match more easily when it's heel versus babyface. When it's two heels, unless you have a really good story with two developed, established heels that everybody knows their personal picadillos, and then you really make it believable and lay it out carefully, or have two guys that can just do it on the fly carefully. It's just,
I'm going to give a couple positives, but I agree with everything you said. Pac looks like a star, handles himself like a star. I agree with you about the dive right away. Eddie Kingston is so unique and different, just, his build. He throws a great punch. We don't see it enough. Great promo. I like him. I didn't like the match. Big positive. I'm happy AEW did some packages in this match and on this show to show why people hypothetically would have a problem with one another. It's one of the big things they have been doing badly, and they did it on this show, and I thought that was good. But I
noticed that on this one and in another place in the show. Yeah. At least we got some history.
The Darby and Brian Cage match. You had a little bit of history there. But the other thing is, AEW, you can always tell when it's taped. It feels off. The audio mix something was off with it, and the commentators just felt Like they weren't actually there. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was.
Well, they are there.
I know they're there, but it felt completely, it was a different pace than the live show in terms of the audio and the commentators, but.
And then of course there has to be an afterbirth.
Always. Every match.
Be an afterbirth.
You got to hot shot every segment.
All the heels suddenly after this 1, 2, 3, all the heels, which was Kingston has the Lucha Brothers on his side, right? No, Kingston's got, I'm trying to remember who's who. Kingston's got the Bunny, the Butcher, and the Baker, and the Candlestick Maker. And then Pac has the Lucha Brothers. And they all got in the ring and had a face-off where they were going to fight, but nothing happened until suddenly here comes Lance Archer, who's another heel. And he hits the ring, and Eddie Kingston's whole badass group bails out, no contact whatsoever. And then here comes Jake Roberts behind Lance Archer, and Jake was dressed as Godzilla? What was he wearing? Was it a Godzilla outfit? I mean, not the head, but I'm being serious. It looked like a Godzilla. It was green and
had scales.
A snake or leopard, or not leopard, but a scaly green jumpsuit without a Godzilla head. Why is Lance mad at Pac? I'm sure they've done something before, but all the heels are mad and fighting each other here. And it doesn't make any sense.
And again, this is one of the problems with everyone having a faction. There's something there with Eddie Kingston. I haven't been crazy about his matches, but I can overlook that because he has so much personality. He's so good on the mic. He throws a really good punch. He looks different than everyone else, which makes him stand out.
You started when he first showed up, you kind of believed him.
Yeah.
But now the stuff that he's in is so nonsensical that it's just like he's one of the other guys. They take people that there's something to them and they make them just another one of the guys.
But I could say the same thing about Pac. Here's a guy, great look, good promo, really good in the ring. But because everyone is in a faction, they don't stand out as much as they would as just singles wrestlers. I'm not saying the Butcher and the Baker are stealing any of the shine off Eddie Kingston, but everyone out there is a faction. Everyone has a couple of guys with them for everything they do. And I just wish they would just have singles wrestlers who were singles wrestlers who cut promos and had problems with someone else, as opposed to everything being gang warfare.
The next match was a singles match. At least we got that, and we got a singles match, but still between two group guys. But the only reason it's a singles match because it was forced, because out of Chuck Taylor and Trent's the one that gets hurt. We can't see Trent for 4 to 6 months, but we got to look at Chucklefuck every day of the week. So it's Taylor with pockets against Miro with his mascot, Pip. And I got to be honest, I was going to fast forward this match, but the first minute was so sloppy and amateurish that I had to watch out of morbid curiosity. I've seen training matches at seminars that were more professional than this match. Miro doesn't have any idea what he's doing, and we know fuck Taylor he's just there. The heel mascot took out the babyface mascot on the floor at one point, and then Miro did I can't say a series, but repeatedly while Chugglefuck was trying to get up, did a series of stomps and made some faces and kicked him, and then made some more faces and tapped him out with the camel clutch. So the most boring submission hold in wrestling is this guy's calling card. And because he beat Taylor has to be Miro's butler until Pip's wedding. They're doing Seinfeld angles now. He lost the court case. He's got to be the butler for a month or whatever. And before anybody brings anything up, no, this is not going to be nearly as good as when Kevin Von Erich won Sunshine from fucking Garvin.
David Von Erich.
Or David Von Erich.
Or even Missy Hyatt when she lost Made for a Day and had to be.
This won't be nearly as good as when anybody won Missy Hyatt. God almighty. Now they're just doing this shit with these stupid underneath guys. Then they go to the pre-tape. Matt Hardy is Private Party's manager now, and it's been a week since they signed the contract, and he's browbeating them. He's turned full heel. He's taken their money, but more importantly, they're already fucking publicly blistering him and promoting him to his face in front of people about the 30% he's taken. They hate each other after 2 weeks. Private Party look like suckers for getting involved in this because it's not like everybody couldn't see it coming. And Matt Hardy, from 3,000-year-old Matt to Vincent Price Matt to Beatrice Arthur Matt to teleporting Matt to Matt that gets dressed in the fucking ice machine in another dimension to Matt that comes out of the lake to Matt that got brain damage and was going to be real to Matt that comes back as a babyface. And now Matt, I guess because of the brain damage, has become Ebenezer Scrooge and is being very penurious about his employees' compensation. What the fuck is going on with Matt Hardy? Why don't they get a different person to play him every week?
I think they're setting up a feud with him and Barry Bloom.
Well, I thought Braverman will have to be the special referee.
Private Party have been there since the beginning, and whenever they had live crowds there, they got a pretty good reaction from the live crowds. And,
and that Mark Quinn has so much potential if he got in a training program, a strict training program that would show him how to use that athletic potential and work smart. He could be a fucking enormous star in the WWE, for real, not on this play show.
And they beat the Young Bucks, although we've talked about how flawed that was in terms of getting them over. But here's Matt Hardy saying to them, no one knows who you guys are. This is going to make you guys. They've been there since the beginning. They've been there longer than you, Matt.
But Matt's telling the truth. Nobody does know who they are yet and won't. All right. Jericovid and the Inner Circle in the ring, doing a promo, all of them. MJF, Santana, Ortiz, Wardlow, Hager, Sammy. Did I miss anybody? They're doing their New Year's resolutions. And, of course, everybody's stepping up to deliver their line that's supposed to be witty and comedic or whatever. And then Jericho says that he and MJF are going to win the tag team title. Santana and Ortiz ain't happy about that. They're supposed to be the team. Sammy Guevara gets hot that Jericho wants to team with MJF. That was the best line. You're a tag team slut. He's just flittering around from partner to partner. All the heels are mad at each other. Again. Has there been a babyface on this fucking program? No wonder it's like fucking getting your goddamn colonoscopy to fucking watch this thing. The heels are mad at each other. MJF was the sparkling jewel and most fun of this, but still it's guys doing a bit. There is no legitimacy to this interaction whatsoever. Hager is now apparently just an idiot who just screams championships. It's like he's played the Luke Williams crazy gimmick where Luke just says 37. Jonathan Boyd has said, we've been champions in 37 different countries. And Luke would say 37. That's Hager now. And Jericho books a triple threat tag team match between all of the heel group next week. Santana and Ortiz against Jericho and MJF against Sammy and Hager. And, of course, they have fun with that. Why? In what universe is this booking meant to do anything positive? Except in the mind of a person who has never done this before, and it shows. Your thoughts on the interview?
Well, again, it was a taped show, so we got to see Chris Jericho's chorus sang twice by all the paid help at ringside.
Highly paid help.
If you're someone out there who gets a hooker, you probably don't want to believe her if she says your dick is big. All the paid help are out there singing their lungs out to the Chris Jericho song, hamming it up for the cameras. He seems very pleased with himself.
Yes.
Maybe, out of all the things we've talked about with Chris Jericho, maybe the worst thing is that, maybe worse than the COVID, is that he has dragged MJF down to doing bad Monday Night Raw comedy.
Do you think that was by design because MJF comes in younger, knows how to work, incredible verbal skills, has the fucking almost bulletproof gimmick that he is who he is 24 hours a day, and Jericho makes him the sidekick, the little buddy, makes him pop his fucking bubble and reveals that he's not a heel 24 hours a day. He's a talented songster and dancer, and he's basically subliminally minimizes MJF and puts him in his group where he can keep an eye on him because he was too much competition.
I don't know, because, there's a lot of people who have the theory that MJF, where this is going, is he'll steal the inner circle from Chris, leading to Chris's babyface turn, but
that opens the line to he steals the inner circle, and by then it's petty theft.
But Jericho has a long history of trying to latch himself on to anything that's happening and steal their heat. So I think maybe there's part of it there. Santana and Ortiz started growing on me since we've last seen them wrestle, just in terms of their personalities. Ortiz is nowhere near as silly. Somehow he's the one who got less silly while everything's been happening with these clowns. And Santana,
he was the one we kept saying, well, he's too fucking silly. Now he's the one that's the least silly.
Yeah, and Santana, I've always thought he had something. I can't even remember the last time we saw those two team up. And the booking here is bad. It was so... Sammy did good. Considering Sammy had lines to hit for this bad comedy segment, I thought Sammy did a good job. He has a world of potential. But even though, it'll be Sammy and Hagar, Sammy Hagar, that joke, which was lame as fuck.
Yeah, well, that's because, Chris was getting a kick out of it.
Because it came from Chris. Because it came from Chris.
That's who he wants to be.
Yeah, but no, I think this whole thing is dragging MJF down to their level. I think Santana and Ortiz, I'd like to see something else done with them. I didn't like this segment. This was bad Monday Night Raw comedy. That's what this was.
Well, there was a pre-taped segment in the back with the entire Dark Order. Wouldn't this have been the time to just not even mention it again, ever? Just give everybody a few weeks off TV and then slowly bring whoever you want to bring back as different people and just act like this never happened. It's been over a year, and it's the most horrible, goofy, useless flop of an angle ever. And since with what's just happened, wouldn't this be the time to go out on as strong a note as you could with respect to Brody Lee and just said the group is done? But it's still here.
I have not been a fan of the Dark Order, but I don't think you could do that. And I don't even know if you should, because I think now, we talked about all these heels on the show. It's impossible for the Dark Order to be heels now.
But it's impossible for any of them except maybe Colt Cabana to get over as anything. It's too late.
I think with the AEW fans, there's a lot of people that I don't think matter to the AEW fans, but when there are fans back in that building, I think Silver is going to be one of the most over guys on the show.
Is he the bald one that acts goofy?
He's the bald one who acts goofy. There again, I look at them now.
That's the worst one to me.
They're a baby face unit who have comedy. I enjoyed their comedy more than the Inner Circle comedy.
Well, that's what in this thing, they pulled Adam Page into the group. He's got a drink in his hand, and he's going to team with them again next week, apparently, and they're asking when he's going to join, and then they all act like they're 11 years old. And I don't understand. Is it just that all these guys are now just fun-loving, goofy fucks that act like they're 11 now?
I don't think there will ever be a sinister group again. I think they're now going to be a goofy baby face. I mean, I could be wrong, but I also don't see how they could be booed, considering everything that tragically happened.
I'm not saying they could be booed. I'm saying this would have been a good time because they put a bunch of indiscriminate job guys and gave them numbers for names in a fucking group that never got over and it got go-away heat. And it's rotten, and they could have, out of respect for Brody Lee, who was by design apparently the only star in this thing, get Colt out and have him do something else. People know who he is. The bald guy that's acting goofy, I guess he's tailor-made for people who like goofy wrestling. The rest of them? What?
See, the thing is, and I haven't been a fan, and you and I have been on the same page a long time, and I'm still not a fan of Evil Uno. But
yeah, and that's the worst thing. You've got a fucking masked fat guy in a mask with a shark fucking mouth. Now he's going to be in a suit. He's going to be a babyface.
Well, again, it looks like he's lost some weight, but
oh fuck,
I don't think they have with that audience.
I got a way he could fucking lose 180 or so pounds of ugly fat. Fucking wear odor eaters in his shoes.
Okay, listen. I don't even know what you're saying. But listen, I think that they no longer have go-away heat with the AEW fans. And this is a roster filled with heels for no reason. And I think now, I mean, if they go back to being heels now, then I just don't get it. And I don't know
I'm not saying they should be heels. I'm not saying they should be baby faces. I'm saying they shouldn't be on the program because all of them are rotten.
You couldn't do that. You couldn't have Brody Lee pass away and then you just never bring any of these people back. I don't think there's any way you could
bring back the ones that you can get something out of under some other name or gimmick. Throw the fucking 2 or 3 with masks and pale fishy white bodies and Sharpie numbers on their chest to the fucking fishes.
Those, unfortunately, may be the ones that they think they can get the most out of long term. Because aren't those the Cody students?
The worst gimmick in history.
Aren't those the students at a Cody and QT school? The masked ones?
I wouldn't admit it if I was Cody and QT.
I haven't seen QT in a while. But that's my only thought. I've been as negative about the Dark Order as anyone. I think they've gone from being a poorly booked, sinister group to a group that had at least someone being pushed as a star as the leader to now they are just flat out a babyface group with a babyface comedy element. We'll see where they go with Adam Page, but out of all the problems on this show, and out of all the problems with the segments on this show, this wasn't one of them for me. I had no problem. And again, this followed the Inner Circle one. This was better than the Inner Circle segment.
Let's move ahead then. The Team Taz and Darby Allin package, as you were talking about, gave us some backstory, made Darby Allin look good, explained what all was going on. Boy, I can't wait to see that match. That was in the middle of the program. Then they had a pre-tape or a backstage segment with Callis and Olivier and the Bucks, and they had rotten audio. And the whole idea was, are they all going to go out for their 6-man together? No, Callis says, hey, you guys, Bucks, go out and have your entrance, and then we'll do our thing or whatever. Or no, we'll go out and then we'll give you your entrance. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Okay, so I saved 3 minutes. I fast-forwarded through Twinkle Toes' entrance. And then Callis gets the microphone, makes a big deal out of the band being back together. Because, you know, the greatest group in the history of wrestling wasn't the Four Horsemen or the fucking Heenan family or the Dirty Deuce-Six. It was the goddamn rip-off fucking clique, the Bullet Club. But anyway, then in a swerve, he introduces Gallows and Anderson instead of the Bucks. What an upgrade. I thought I was going to have to watch the Bucks wrestle. Instead, I get to see Gallows and Anderson, 2 actual grown men. And then they show the Bucks in the back with Tony Khan there. And they look like a fucking segment from an Einar song illustrated by the serial stripper where they all had fucking disappointed looks on their faces.
Now that's funny.
So now they have Kenny Olivier, the greatest. Yeah, I'll quit it now.
Okay.
Kenny Olivier, the world's greatest wrestling artist. Carl Anderson, who's in this match the best, actually on this show, probably the best worker. Luke Gallows, who looks like Andre the Giant in this company. And they are facing Brian Pillman Jr., fine young man, but he's an underneath talent right now in this instance. Griff Garrison, who, again, looks like a fucking string of spaghetti. He's skinny and pale, but they're the Varsity Blondes. And their tag team partner, I swear to God, this was his name that they used, Danny Limelight. So you've got the fucking champion and these 2 invaders from another company with the top heel manager. They get in a 6-man tag with these guys. Olivier starts doing gymnastics with the midget jobber named Danny Limelight. This idiot has no idea how to get himself over. He is incredibly lucky that he had the Japanese office to lead him by the nose through what they wanted him to do, and then that he has a fan base here with AEW that would like anything. You could fucking feed them Elmer's glue and they'd thank you for the ice cream. He is a complete idiot when he gets in the ring. He never does the right thing. And I could see at one point, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows in the corner asking themselves, why is this idiot selling for the job guys? And that's almost all he did. Anderson was the best worker in the match. Gallows looks like he could beat up everybody else in it all by himself. This went through a break. And after the break, Twinkle Toes was still taking bumps for Danny Limelight. He's such an idiot. He thinks that he can get this fucking job guy over. All he did was get himself under because it looks like the fucking midget job guy is just as good as Olivier is. And then Brian Pillman and Griff Garrison got a 2 3/4 count on Carl Anderson. Then all three heels hit a finish on Griff Garrison, and Pillman made the save, 1-2 save. And then Anderson hit Garrison with a kick, and he kicked out. And then Garrison foiled Carl Anderson's move and tagged out to Danny fucking Limelight. And Anderson ends up catching Danny Limelight off the top rope with a spine buster, no cover. They had to pick him up and hit a double team, 1, 2, 3, finally. It took 15 minutes for them to beat these guys. It's like they're not even trying to get anybody over. It's like nobody has ever even watched a wrestling program on television, much less been involved in one. This is not how you treat new talent or top talent, especially not new top talent. Then Moxley's music hits, and he comes from the cheap seats. And there's three guys in the ring, and one of them's a fucking beast, and they're waiting on him. And Moxley jumps in to fight all three of them, and they barely get him down. All three of them barely get him down, and then here comes Felix and Penthouse, the Lucha Brothers. Aren't they heels? They hit, and they help Moxley. And then Moxley's back up after they've got him down, and he's all over Olivier. Kenny Olivier cannot have a worked fight. His broad arms look like my Aunt Lola throwing them. He's awkward. If it's not his cheerleading routines, if it's actual simulated real violence, he looks like a cow on ice. But then suddenly, when all this is happening, the locker room empties. They've had people attacked with sledgehammers. They've had brutal beatings where people were almost killed and nobody would come. But as soon as Moxley and Olivier get in a fucking pull apart, the locker room empties. And then the Bucks come in to stop Moxley, to calm him down. Don't be fighting Kenny. But the Lucha Brothers come up in behind the Bucks while Moxley is looking at them. And Moxley makes no effort to warn the Bucks, hey, those guys are behind you, or turn around or anything. He just lets the Bucks turn around and get double super kicked and stands there and watches it. Why is this happening? Who are the baby faces? Who are the heels? Why is this going on? Why did Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson get the worst debut in wrestling history? What is the matter with this program? Those are not rhetorical. Give me some answers.
No, this was a train wreck. I will say I thought Danny Limelight was the highlight of the match, to be honest. I'm not a fan of Omega's work in general. I mean, when he has a match with another high-profile person and they go a while, I can get into it. I didn't like this. I've said it before. You and I will disagree. I think Anderson and Gallows are the most underwhelming tag team ever, or at least in the modern era.
I've seen him have good matches. I like Anderson's work. Gallows is enormous and looks like a grown adult man, overgrown adult man. In this, they're not Bockwinkel and Stevens, but in this company, they kind of are.
Again, you and I won't agree on this. The post-match was a mess. Tony Khan appearing on camera. You know...
Yeah, I know.
He shouldn't be on camera. And that disapproving look that he had at the monitor. Just wait until he finds out the details of the sexual harassment problems they had at Impact. Then he's going to really wonder why he did this deal. Because I know the details.
If he ain't already wondering.
Yeah. No,
I
think there's going to be a lot of egg on people's faces if the story gets out there and it gets leaked. But I know the details, and I wouldn't have done this deal. I wouldn't have done this deal. I think he's insane for doing this deal.
Next up, there is a tooth and nail rule that we've had in effect for some time. They've now given Dr. Britt Baker her own interview segment called The Waiting Room. And they've even, it looks like Shitstain was involved in this. They've even built a cheap set that somehow resembles a doctor's waiting room. And Reba introed Dr. Britt Baker, and because of the tooth and nail rule, I fast-forwarded it.
No, come on.
Hold on. I started fast-forwarding because I knew this was going to be a complete joke and a waste of my time because they brought Cody out, and there is a tooth and nail rule, but I saw Jane Cargill come through the door. And I said, if Jane Cargill is involved in this, I've got to see it. So I stopped fast-forwarding, and I started watching it.
But you didn't rewind?
I didn't rewind because I didn't give a fuck.
Oh, man. This was the best segment since Jade Cargill's debut. This was such a train wreck.
How could anything that Britt Baker and Cody did be worse than Jane Cargill's debut?
Because remember, Jade Cargill's debut was so brilliant because it was really, really bad and really, really awesome. And this one, I've been waiting for a follow-up on that level. And we finally got it because she is so confident on the mic, despite any talent on the mic. But she's so talented. Let me tell you what you missed. Reba introduces Britt Baker. Apparently, they've been doing this show on their YouTube show for a while. Britt Baker does some jokes, like it's a real talk show. Like she does like a little monologue, like she's Jay Leno.
Oh, boy.
And then Cody comes out, and right away I'm like, okay, this is something. I
did see the part about where when Reba introduced her, she came out to mute like talk show music, like she's Ellen dancing or whatever. That's why I started fast forward.
It's ridiculous. So then Cody comes out there. I don't even know if Cody got a word out. You know, she's just making jokes at Cody, and she did say how it'll be great the next 9 months, no Brandy on the show. And then when Jade walked through that door, I popped like I did when I was 9 years old and the Ultimate Warrior won back the Intercontinental title.
Well, that's when I started watching again.
Go ahead.
The first thing I wrote, they didn't give up on this. Why is this happening? She's taller than Cody. She looks like Shelton Benjamin in a blonde wig. Her abs look like Alien is coming. Her thighs are bigger than Doug Furness's. She's not just a female bodybuilder, which I personally think is visually fucking off-putting. Let's just say off-putting, female bodybuilders. But her shit don't even match. She's got a fucking teeny tiny waist and big arms, but a little upper body and huge fucking thighs. It's like her steroids didn't settle evenly or whatever the fuck. But my God, this girl has no business speaking on television. And it's not even fair to tear her apart because she's obviously, you said she looks like she's so confident and she's doing such a good job while at the same time she's worse than probably anybody ever on national television because she's awkward and uncomfortable and she's trying not to show it. I think that would seem to me as a talent evaluator from 30, 40 years ago. She's not comfortable. She's not a good promo. She is not an experienced veteran wrestler. You can tell the way she moves on the interviews. Her work has to be the drizzling shits. And she's not really fucking Shaquille O'Neal. So why is she in this? And they bring Shaq back up. Shaq was on the show 2 weeks ago, got a drink thrown in his face by Brandy, didn't do anything about it, had the personality of a fucking coma patient. And that whole business is dead now. Nobody would be interested in seeing Shaq and Cody now after seeing how little that Shaq gave a fuck. But now they're bringing her back into it. She's talking about Shaq again. And why is she involved? They have an NBA superstar and a worldwide known celebrity. Why are they putting this awkward fucking deer on ice, can't talk girl in this unless Shaq specifically said, I'm fucking her, so put her in this thing. That's the way I'll do it if she gets to be on TV. That's happened before. That's understandable. If that is not the case, whoever whoever's idea it was that they should put this girl on television, should be taken out in the parking lot, stripped naked, have honey poured all over them, and tied on top of a red anthill. Then she pie faces Cody.
You know, when she came through that door, I said, oh my God, I figured someone would show up and challenge Cody. I said it last week.
She's taller than Cody.
I said, who's Cody working with? What is his program? And we couldn't figure it out. And when she showed up, I said, oh no, they can't be doing this again. Because what's Cody's program? He's not going to work against her.
But they're not, and he's not, because here comes Red Velvet. The only pro wrestler named after a cake, because Brandy can't be there. Here comes Red Velvet, and they stare down for a second, and then they trade slaps, and then they jump each other, and they have a pull apart. Remember, we've talked about this also. Nobody comes to help the guys that are bathed in blood, wrapped up in barbed wire and razor wire and broken glass with hand grenades shoved up their ass. But these two girls get in a fucking fight, and suddenly every outlaw girl in wrestling hits the fucking scene to break it up.
Instantly.
And I mean, they've got to be paying all those fucking girls to be there. Is this guy a madman? Why? And then suddenly, as they pull them apart and they get the fight between Red Velvet and Jane Cargill separated, suddenly there's a jump cut to the screen where you see footage from a couple of months ago of Britt Baker attacking Thunder Rosa. And then Thunder Rosa does a promo, which is half English and half Spanish, and I had trouble understanding both because of their audio and her accent. And this is on the screen after this pull apart. And then Britt Baker, they come back to her on the set, and she's pissed about Thunder Rosa. And fucking, what? Was there a jump cut there? Did they plan this way? Was something off kilter? What the fuck was going on? This was the herkiest jerkiest.
I can't explain it, but all of a sudden, you didn't even describe how instant it was.
No instant. I'm talking about a jump cut.
Yeah, the brawl's happening, and all of a sudden, for no reason that's explained, they go to footage of Britt and Thunder Rosa. Now, it's Britt's interview show, but Britt's in the middle of an interview with Cody, and all this chaos breaks out.
The fight's going on. Suddenly, the tape starts playing on the screen, and then Britt gets mad because the tape is playing on the screen. It's her show. She didn't know the tape was going to play, and why is the tape playing after the pull apart? We don't. Fuck.
And then after the Thunder Rosa promo, Tony promised me I wouldn't have to wrestle you. Tony said this. Tony said this.
Yeah, she mentioned Tony Khan's name about 17 times. Because apparently that was to cover up for the fact that he's paying 25 of her friend girl wrestlers from the indies to come and get a fucking free ride over here.
This was such a beautiful train wreck, this segment.
Oh.
It was just, this is the kind of train wreck I can enjoy on AEW. And Cody just seems so out of place. Like I said, I don't know if he said one word the entire time.
And then he got out of there once they started fighting. You never saw him again, right?
Of course.
Thanks for coming.
By the way, all the girls that rushed to break up the fight, they came from, like, the camera side.
Yeah.
Why did Red Velvet have to come through the door if she was going to confront her on this makeshift set? Why didn't she just run in from that side?
I used to do promos in TNA where they built my office. The office didn't have one wall, but we had to remind everybody to walk in where the door was supposed to be. Fucking ridiculous. And they went out of this straight into a match. Not even a break, so we could calm things down, settle the emotions, straight into a match. Guess what the match was? FTR versus Jungle Boy and Dwarf Dong Sucker. And Dino Douche didn't even stay at ringside because the little freak wanted to do this on his own, but Tully stayed with FTR, so they literally, FTR and their manager, had an opposing team that weighed less than 250 pounds combined. Think about it, because what, Jungle Boy's, they built him 160? Dong Sucker's what, 90 pounds? 85 pounds? Well, here's another friendship I'm going to end. I wish it had got a chance to go longer. And first, I will say this. Remember when Jericho and all these guys do promos, they talk about the freedom they've got, that Tony Khan gives them the freedom to create, the freedom to do their art, the freedom to develop things, right? They've all got this freedom, right? You've heard about freedom.
Yeah.
Why in the world did FTR or Tully Blanchard not use that freedom to sit down with Tony Khan? I'm going to explain something to everybody. Here's the way that main event talent would sit down and talk to an experienced booker. Politely, not as savage as me, not as rude as me, but they would talk to an experienced or an inexperienced booker. Whether it was Tully or FTR saying it, they could have sat down with Tony Khan and they could have said this: look, you pay us a lot of money. And the reason you pay us a lot of money is so that we can return that favor by being an attraction for you. You've got the best in-ring heel tag team in the world in any company, and you've got an iconic single heel, figurehead of the Horsemen and the NWA Crockett Promotions glory days, second-generation wrestler whose father was a wrestler and promoter, who's seen it all. And you pay us a lot of money so that we can go out there and outperform everybody else and have great matches. If we have any decent opponents, we have any angle or issue that has any interest or credibility in it whatsoever, we can produce TV ratings because we can produce great television for you. We can give you TV ratings. We can maybe sell some pay-per-views, and we can sell some tickets when that is a thing again. If we're used in a certain way to give the people confidence in us so that our talent can show. And as I said, if we have any kind of decent competition, opposition, and an interesting, believable angle. If you want to give us Jungle Boy, they should have said, we would love to work with that kid. And if we have to, we'll take the fucking dinosaur with him. He's not very bright and he's awkward, but he looks the part, and we'll be able to get something out of him if he closes his mouth and opens his ears and listens. And we can do business with those guys. But if you put us in joke matches with joke talent on TV, especially on TV, if you have us wrestling this match with this, I mean, just call him what he is, a little fucking goof, a little obnoxious goof that kills off every heel's heat by confronting them and flipping them off with the finger and that fucking face. I'm not saying they should have said this, Tony Khan, but everybody, I can't imagine how this guy's a baby face, because everybody, every male watching should be wanting to say, I'd like to grab that little fucking prick and squeeze him around the neck until his britches were full. He's obnoxious. He's a joke. But they could have said, if you put us in the ring with a guy like that, nobody's going to take it seriously. It diminishes our value to you in front of the fans, because anybody who sees that will never take us seriously in a main event position or as seriously against credible opposition, real wrestlers. They'll remember us as having done joke matches with a midget. So you're paying us a lot of money now, and if you devalue us, then we won't be worth that much money the next time that we come to sign a contract. And also, if the fans see us bumping around and stooging for this little fucking freak of nature and obviously being phony, it just makes us two more of the boys and nothing to fucking take seriously, and we will be worth less to you or anybody else when it comes time for us to sign another contract. So to save you from having one of your prime pieces of talent devalued, and to save us from getting less money next time because we've been made to look stupid on your television program, we're not going to do this match. We're not going to work with Marco Stunt. It's embarrassing and it's insulting to us to ask that, and we're not going to do it. Do you think he would have fired him? Do you think Tony Khan would have fired FTR and Tully Blanchard because they took a stand and said, no, we have more pride in what we do than to work with that idiot just to be a spectacle on your fucking program? We're serious. This is our profession. We want to draw you money, and we're not going to let you bury us. With all the other freedom to do every goofy thing that they can think of that all these guys have. Would Tony Khan have honestly fired them for saying, no, we'll work with the other guys. We'll do whatever you want. But no, this ain't going to work for us. We're not going to get in the ring with this fucking clown. Would he have fired him? What do you think?
I presume he wouldn't have.
Well, then that means that FTR have just rolled over and decided to play dead. And there's another fucking great tag team and two quality guys that I now regret ever saying anything good about. Maybe Tully doesn't give a fuck anymore. He obviously knows. You could see the look on his face. He was cringing sometimes at just what was going on. He knows it's a joke, but he hadn't had a check from the wrestling business in 30 years. So maybe he doesn't want to rock the boat. But I can't believe that FTR went with this. Just working with this guy validates him as somebody who ought to be allowed to do this, and that's not the case. But especially a multiple segment match where they were bumping for him. When after they hit the goof with two things, that should have been it. They bumped for him. Then they hit him with everything in the world. They got heat on him. And then at the same time, he would come back moments later. At some point, you've got to have enough pride in what you do or enough self-respect as a man and say, no, this is not something I'm going to be doing. It's happened hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of times in the wrestling business. And it should have happened here. They're already, FTR, severely compromised as draws or as top guys due to the completely botched booking since the day they started here. And the loss to the young fucks. And the way that it was done. And nobody could figure out whether they were heels or not. Nobody could figure out whether the Bucks were heels or not. They gave the match away with minimum build because they didn't know how to fucking do it. And it wasn't as good as anybody thought that it would have been because they did more of the Bucks shit and less of their shit. Right after this match, FTR is as dead as any type of attraction on this program, and probably the biggest personal disappointment to me of anybody that I've been a fan of, because I thought these guys were serious. And they even left a company where they were going to get treated like jokes to come to a company where they're treated like worse jokes. Dong Sucker was the whole focus of this thing. He lived through that long set of heat. Jungle Boy got a comeback and then tagged the fucking dwarf back in, and he was back on offense. And they stopped him again. Tully even posted him. And then they finally hit their finish. Who would have thought that it would be an FTR match that would finally just make me say, fuck this whole show? Because that's what happened. When this was over with, I turned it off. I was looking forward to seeing Serena Deeb because I assumed that was probably, and I can tell you, I didn't watch this, but I can tell you what happened. Serena Deeb went out and had the best wrestling match on the show. She's the only real professional they've got, apparently. And then Darby Allin and Brian Cage did everything that has ever been done, and nobody sold shit, and they all got up from it. And then somehow or another, Darby won, but then the heels tried to kill him, but then the snow started, and there was a 100% chance of Sting in the forecast, and he came out, and they all ran away, and he looked at everybody, and nothing happened. How close am I?
He hit Ricky Starks with a bat.
He touched him?
Yeah.
He touched somebody?
Well, the bat touched him. Technically, Sting didn't touch him. Maybe he has a Lloyd's of London policy on his hands.
Yeah, on his bat or whatever. But basically, everything else was right except for that on those last two matches.
The Serena Deeb match was good. It was the best we've seen out of Tay Conti, or Ty Conti. I don't know exactly how to pronounce her name, but makes sense because she had trained with Serena Deeb. I guess she was part of developmental. Okay,
well, then that makes good sense.
Yeah, but that was good. I can't say anything bad about that.
I knew it would have been if I hadn't been so disgusted by the complete evisceration and castration of the best in-ring heel team in the business. I would have watched the rest of this program. But I'm sure after, let's see, whenever the ratings come out or the quarter-hour ratings, let's see who turned this program off after that fucking little fucking obnoxious midget got finished killing all the top talent. Because I can't believe I'm the only one that turned this show off after seeing that fucking exhibition.
You know, like you, I'm disappointed FTR were in this match and certainly that they gave him as much as
Does everybody see now why I never seriously considered the Tully spot? I guarantee that motherfucker would have sold a racket shot. I'd have made sure he sold that. He would have had no goddamn choice but to sell that fucking racket shot. That would have been my notice. Instead of going through that whole goddamn conversation that I just said that Tully and FTR should have told Tony Khan, since if they'd have booked that match and I'd have been their manager, I said, well, I got news for you. If you're stupid enough to book this fucking match, you're not serious about any of us, so I'm going to give my notice tonight in a very special way. And I would have put the horseshoe in the tennis racket and creased that little fucking dwarf skull with it as my notice.
I'm sure you would have brought him right to Altoona. But what I was going to say is, I hate that they gave him that much in the match. It's ridiculous. It looked ridiculous.
It's a ludicrous visual to even book this.
They are so good. And
circus freak as a wrestler, but for them to go out there and bump around for it.
And we haven't seen them do anything in a while. Really, they have done nothing since they lost the tag titles.
No, except bemoan the fact that they lost.
Now, to my earlier point in the show, I'll give a positive here. It's not really a positive now that I think about it. Like I said about Eddie Kingston and Pac, Jungle Boy. Tony Khan has now bought the rights to that song, Tarzan Boy. I guarantee when they have fans in there, they're all going to be singing that chorus, or I guess singing's not the word, howling that chorus.
Yes, I'm sure they will. And of course, and it's only 35 years old, so everybody who criticized my taste in music.
Well, your taste was too Southern. That's probably why people criticize it. But anyway,
a lot more people playing Skinnerd on the radio than playing Baltimore, just so you know.
You can't tell me that Jungle Boy wouldn't be better off. Forget about even Marco Stunt, but Luchasaurus. If Jungle Boy was a singles, if they had a dedicated singles division with an Eddie Kingston and a Pac and a Jungle Boy, none of them are alike. None of them have packs and gangs and cliques. It would be so much better. Jungle Boy has a lot of potential. Having the ridiculous Marco Stunt with him is a mistake. I don't even think he should be with Luchasaurus anymore. I think they should just run with Jungle Boy as a single.
Well, the fucking masked sock-faced dinosaur is going to hold him back too, because you can tell he's a goof and he's an awkward, get his shit in kind of guy. Oh, I got news for you. On the other match we missed, I would have watched Darby Allin and Brian Cage because Allen's got a lot of charisma and they've really been pushing him. I was just too disgusted by the rest of this program. But remember we said, what the fuck is that logo on all of Cage's attire? GMSI.
Yeah.
I said, is it a clothing brand? Is it what the fuck? It's not his initials. He doesn't have a nickname that fits that. You know what that stands for?
I saw, yeah.
On Twitter, people smarten me up. Get my shit in. He was known on the indies, I guess, I don't know whether to the fans or the boys in the locker room, as Mr. Get My Shit In, because he has to get all of his moves in. It's a rib. It's a knock on outlaw wrestlers. They have to get every move they've ever known or learned into a match. He's actually wearing that on his shit, his tights and his T-shirt. And here's another thing. Tony Khan lets him. When I booked something, I knew what the fuck was going on my television program. Every way that everyone was referred to, the weights that they were announced, the hometown that they were announced. I approved their entrance music. I knew what their finishes were because I had fucking approved those too. I knew exactly what was going on. And if I had seen this guy walk up to me with a shirt or having an ass of his tights that said GMSI, I would have said, okay, what does that stand for? And then he would have said, get my shit in. And then I would have said, get more tights. And I would not have let him warn that shit on television, because then people would be asking, like I did, what does that stand for? And if they heard the answer, then that makes wrestling fake. Why do you want to get your shit in a fight? You should want to win the fight in as few moves as possible and not be touched at all by your opponent. Get my shit in indicates that you are a performer engaging in a performance. It doesn't have anything to do with your name or your gimmick. So therefore, you'll take that shit off. You won't wear it in front of people. You will get some more shit that fits your gimmick. But nobody's apparently told him that either. So now we know, just like we can't tell until they expose themselves who the Trump fucks are, we can't tell who the fucking pea-minded outlaw mud show fucks are until they put it on their hat, whether it's MAGA or GMSI. Get my shit in. I told you Starks was the fucking jewel of that. And Cage, I said, he's not smart and he's green and he does a lot of stupid shit that a guy that looks like that shouldn't be doing. And son of a gun, wouldn't you know who won the pony? He's one of these guys that wants to get his shit in. Fuck. Ah, the amateurs. So anyway, I didn't delete the recording because I figured I might want to go back and see Serena Deeb later on, but it was less than an hour before we had to record, and I could not watch any more wrestling after seeing FTR completely fucking castrate themselves and cut their dick and balls off and set it there in the ring and willingly flop around for that obnoxious fucking dwarf. So I may watch it before the drive-through. I don't know. You have any closing thoughts on this thing?
No, not really. It was, that was how it happened.
All things are as they were then, except you are there. Well, Edward R. Murrow, we ain't going to be here much longer. Let's close this thing up. I've cussed politicians. I've cussed stupid hillbilly redneck pricks. I've cussed amateur wrestlers. I've cussed doctors.
Oh, we have
Is there anybody else?
We have doctor news before we wrap things up.
Doctor news.
There has been a death. It's been reported in the New York Times.
What?
Dr. Bornstein, Donald Trump's doctor, the one who said he was the healthiest man who will ever run for president. He has passed away. Yeah.
The guy that looked like the fucking hairy, weird uncle that hangs around at the birthday parties with the wart on the side of his nose?
That's him. Dr. Harold Bornstein has passed away at the age of 73. No cause of death listed.
Well, at least it wasn't Dr. Vinny Boombots.
No, it wasn't. At least it wasn't that.
At least it wasn't Dr. Bots. All right, folks, we're done here. Next week, we may watch NXT. We got to watch NXT next week for the Fight Pit.
Okay.
After that, we'll quantify this thing. I only watch AEW at this point because I will not. It's like pointing out criminals. I will not let these people get away with perpetrating a crime of this magnitude every week and not telling people about it and not pointing at it and saying, look what they did. They should be ashamed. They should be accused of this. They are guilty of this. But NXT is starting not to be worth my fucking time.
I will say this, because I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let the listeners down. Every now and then I think, I'll just fast forward and actually hear from people. We listen to hear the reviews. You can't fast forward. There will be a lot of fast forwarding on next week's NXT. I'm pretty sure of it. But I will watch that Fight Pit.
At least that's one thing about the VCRs. You do that much fast forwarding, you used to wear your heads out. And it would wear the tape out, too. Now we don't have to worry about that. All right.
Nice. That is nice. Yeah.
Next week, if there still is a country, we'll be on the drive-through Monday. And then Biden will be inaugurated on Tuesday. Hopefully that means the United States will still be in existence next week so that we'll have an experience. Or we may do it from an island 7 miles offshore so we're in international waters. Keep reading the newspapers. If something happens between now and then, the U.S. goes out of business, we may not have a show next week. It's up in the air.
What?
Well, I'm saying between now and then, if the U.S. goes out of business, we may have to, like I said, we may not be able to rent a boat and get out 7 miles off the fucking to the international waters by next week's experience deadline of recording. I'm firmly convinced that this is the end of the fucking country. There's 75 million complete idiots in this country. They've infiltrated Congress, probably the Senate, definitely the fucking police force. I don't know, I don't think Biden can fix all this. I don't think anybody can. I think Donald Trump and his witless minions have brought an end to the grand experiment of democracy, and we're all going to get new zip codes this year because it's going to be several different countries. And unfortunately, where I'm located, I'm going to have to dig a fucking moat because I'm in Republican fucking heaven down here. Not Louisville, but the state of Kentucky. Louisville, hopefully what we can do is we can build a mile-wide moat and just keep our fucking metropolitan area and shut ourselves off. But we're going to have to get new zip codes, possibly new area codes for the phones. And holy shit, the flag manufacturers, because if we break into 4 or 5 different countries, they're all going to have to get new flags, right? This could take a while. So who knows what our recording schedule will be like? What do you think?
Well, on that happy note, we'll see you Monday on the drive-thru for more hijinks and history.
Yeah, hijinks, history, and hysteria. Thank you. Fuck you. Bye-bye, everybody.